Hello and welcome to the 4Corners podcast. I'm Brad, and joining me as always is Matt and Shad. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
So, before we get to the show tonight, we have a tragic announcement to make. Everyone, you need to brace yourselves. Can I get an F for the acolyte? It
Uh,
died. It died far too soon. It has ceased to be.
Chris,
It's expired and
Yes.
gone to meet its maker.
Yes. Brett,
yeah, it
it,
did not get a favorable impression I saw, at least on social media.
there's a lot of the usual suspects like going oh my god, this is so terrible, but it got terrible viewership. Like Ahsoka didn't do well, and it only did like 60% of what Ahsoka did.
Ooh. Well, I think uh, Morrison, who plays Boba Fett and who played Jango,
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I'm not gonna try to even pronounce his first name. I would just butcher it and it'd be disrespectful. But that dude, that actor, he just announced he almost I don't know if he was trying to be apologetic, but or just whatever. He was kind of yeah, because they're doing, I guess, a Mandalorian movie, which I don't think they need to do, but whatever. They're doing a Mandalorian movie, and he's like, yeah, I'm not in the movie. I don't think Boba Fett has more of a story in the current current Star Wars.
It might as well
And
be
it's
the same thing.
he's kind of was intimating is yeah, Book of Boba Fett wasn't popular with people, and it's it wasn't.
Well, it
But
made
that's
no
not entirely his fault, you
it,
know.
it made no sense. Like they I don't know. I have to go back to watch like all the plot holes in that movie, that show, but like it contradicted its own
That's
plot.
but that's the problem with a lot of modern Star Wars and I almost feel a lot of other Disney properties, Marvel's crept into this too, but it's not really working just because it's not well done. I mean, there's controversy about, and with Acolyte for sure, there was controversy about it, potentially its politics, or at least the politics of the people making it, because it's they did the dumbest. I don't know what's wrong with them. They do dumb marketing where it's before the show even starts, it's well, if you're this type of person, the show isn't for you. And it's why would you say that? Why don't you be
Well,
like, yeah, the show's awesome. It's for everyone.
how
But it
how can
didn't
you
it
get on
didn't
your
work because
moral how can you get on your moral high horse? The
it's just
person that
dumb.
wrote
Because even if go ahead, I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna say the person that wrote that was like Harvey Weinstein's like personal assistant. So like I don't want to hear anything she has to say because like you were you were complicit in what he was doing because you're not someone's personal assistant like that and you don't know what's going on. Like I'm sorry, like she can try and deny it all she wants, but I'm pretty sure like she had some hint of the
It just
misdeeds.
it's just kind of dumb because I didn't watch the show, but from what I understand, it isn't really woke or political,
No,
but
but it's
it was just poorly done. It had
it
really bad plot holes and had some not everyone, but
it
certain actors did really bad jobs. So it's that's
the guy for I've heard the only one that was really good in it was the guy from Squid Games. Like he learned
yeah, I heard he
and
was good.
and basically he was better than everyone else and he learned English specifically to do that show. But where it had trouble from what like I've seen of it and read about it, it like undercuts itself repeatedly. Like a lot of
Well,
modern
we're
stuff
going
does.
you're going kind of deep into it, but I know there was one where again, I didn't watch the show, but I saw it on social media where it's this scene was supposed to be the Squid Games guy. He kills who I think is supposed to, I don't know if she's supposed to be Sith, but she's like a Night Sister or something where she's kind of on the dark side. And she starts like attacking one of the main characters using magic or something. It's all weird.
Yeah,
But I saw the clip and he kills her to stop her from doing that. And in the context of that, what I was explained on social media to me was that, oh, but this is supposed to show that the Jedi overreacted. He wasn't
oh
supposed
yeah,
to
yeah,
do
yeah. I
that.
know what you're talking
That's the
about
Jedi
now.
being evil. And it's why would he be evil? Because I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, she's attacking someone. He's stopping her from attacking. It's
It's self defense.
yeah, it's like you see a cop shoot someone. that's about to attack another person or is in the process of attacking, and it's like, well, the cop used too much force, and it's like, I guess you can have that discussion, but it's like, he saw a threat, he neutralized the threat. I don't get. So it's like things like that. It's like you're making this story like incredibly vague and weird and not well done.
I just think they
said it's undercutting itself.
Well, I think they run into a couple problems that I've seen. I don't know about this one so much, but a lot of these, like Obi-Wan, was a repurposed movie into a TV show, and they write a lot of this stuff like a movie. So you get like 8 episodes of nonsense because they stretched a like 2-hour movie out into like an 8-hour TV show. I also think the problem is
I have the high ground.
The problem is too, I think, is they're never like pushing the story forward. They're always going backwards or like sideways. And when you do that, all you're going to do is contradict stuff. And it's kind of why I think people don't like prequels. Why I kind of hate them now is because it kind of takes everything.
What I hate seeing, and I think this even happened with this show, or was, if not this show, like certainly like a lot of shows nowadays, or even like comic books or whatever like that. It's like they hire someone and they like are talking, like do promo work before like marketing and hyping it, and like they go to like the creator of the show, right, or whatever, and it's like let's say it's Star Wars. It's like, yeah, I never really watched Star Wars, like I didn't really get it, but got hired for the show and like I'm gonna have my own take on this. And it's like, can you at least hire people who have at least some sort of appreciation or understanding of the source material?
Yeah.
So they don't just at least like contradict a bunch of crap that's already been done.
Yeah, like
that is that a lot to ask? They don't have to be like, I have lived 40 years of my life to do this show. Like, I don't need that either. I don't need a super ultra fanboy.
So there was an similar issue to this. Thankfully, I had this monkey off my back. I had it on my back for too long. But I used to play League of Legends, and their lore was a mess. And then all of a sudden they release the big tipping point was they released this big the big harrowing event. Like there was this story that would go through. It's a MOBA, it's a 5v5 toxic as hell MOBA, but they had the story go with it. They completely forgot characters that were tied into the storyline. Like one of my favorite characters is a pivotal part of it. He shows up once and he's like, "Oh, by the way, you're going to need this thing. Here, take it. By the way, my own lore that's printed in this very thing says if I take it off, I die. But here, you can have that. That's fine." It's just like,
yeah.
Where is the oversight? Like, I'm not even going down the path of rage that I could on it, but it's like, that is egregiously bad research on... I'm not even going to call it... They're writers, swish, 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 quote marks, on their part. And if you don't understand the setting you're writing in, you shouldn't be writing in it. I don't care what the medium is. If you don't understand what Bridgerton is, then don't get someone to write for it, because they're going to want to put gunfights in it or whatever the hell is out of place in Bridgerton. I don't really know.
So a couple things.
Zombie outfit.
Yeah, a couple things. A couple things real quick. But speaking of League, who do I got to smack around to get me some Arcane Season 2? Because I'm tired of waiting for it.
So that is almost done, but there were some folks who leaked like the first 3 episodes. Not good quality, but they leaked copies of the first 3 episodes. Like, that is very near release.
Okay. Matt, if you haven't watched that yet, it's totally worth the watch. Even if you don't know League, like, you don't have to understand anything about League, and it works.
It handles all that for you.
I can try to watch it for this.
I think it's only 10 episodes, maybe?
I find 8. I just get so busy with life. Like, I think at this point, my watching of, like, AEW, like Dynamite, Collision, it's probably back up to, like, 5-6 weeks behind.
Well,
it's a lot.
I was going to say...
I see online that Arcane Season 2 coming out in November.
Okay, cool.
Which told you it wasn't far.
Well, and I was
okay. Can I pause? I'm sorry, Brad. You were having a thought. I would just say in general, this is a tangent. I don't mean to, but it's like a Netflix show. I guess this is something I hate because my wife and I actually just watched season 3, and we still have to watch the 8-episode season 4. But Umbrella Academy, it's like, watch Umbrella Academy, then it's like, wait 3 years until the next season. It's like, no, please. I understand, like with streaming services, you want a higher quality, whatever, higher production values. Maybe you have to wait a little bit long, but the first season of Arcane apparently debuted November 2021.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a long time between. What were you gonna say? I'm sorry if you.
I was gonna
remember
say
your
you
thought.
just brought it up, but God, Umbrella
Oh.
Academy season 2 was so garbage. No, I was gonna say the problem I have with people is they'll defend stuff, like when they've done some of the recent Marvel stuff, and they'll be like, "Well, why don't you like singing in the Marvels or whatever?" I'm like, "Because it's an action movie. Like you don't want singing. Like you wouldn't want to go to see Barbie and have Barbie whip out a machine gun and start gunning people down. Like it doesn't fit. Like
It's like a tonal shift.
yeah."
Yeah.
It doesn't fit
That
the
would
audience
work.
it's meant for. I mean, even I don't think they even tried to sing in Deadpool and Wolverine, even though they made jokes about it. Which, if you want a movie that understands like what it is, like Deadpool and Wolverine is, I just
Yeah, I think it's probably like the number one,
it's the
at least in North America.
highest
like,
grossing R-rated movie of all time.
It is
Well, I didn't know
a
of all
lot
time,
of
but
fun.
I don't know of all time, but it's of the year at least. It's probably like the highest rated. Like I feel like live action one because there's a couple movies that I think are a little bit bigger.
I think Inside Out 2
But
might be ahead of it. But what,
Inside Out 2 domestically is like it's 600 million or something crazy, and it's like I have no interest in watching this movie. I had no interest in watching the first movie, and I still haven't. And
the first one's okay.
I have an almost 5-year-old that like this would be like in her wheelhouse maybe, and it's like I have no interest. Like this
It's
just
okay.
looks weird and dumb.
I was gonna say though,
Justin, I guess.
what didn't do well also is Borderlands, which they're already like yanking it out of theaters. I think it made a whopping 13 million domestic.
You mean Boomerlands?
Yeah,
You say domestic, I think that's actually like worldwide. It's made like nothing.
no, I think it's made like 16 or 17 worldwide.
Well,
I mean, not much better.
Justin, I think in the Discord is like, Umbrella Academy season 4 is not worth it. I have this weird, almost OCD type of thing where a lot of times if I start a show, I'm gonna finish it. So I'm gonna finish it.
Oh my god!
It's only 8 episodes. I actually liked season 3.
I have a hair.
So I don't know.
I had a hair on my glasses that would not come off.
The worst is when you have like a pet hair like on your lips or something, and you're like, and you have to like frantically try and get it off.
Well, if you want the worst hairs ever, own a Dalmatian because their hairs do not come out of stuff at all.
Oh,
Like I the last Dalmatian I've owned's been dead for 15 years, and I still find their hair on stuff. So
little gifts.
yeah, so we have a show for you tonight. So the main topic is going to be we're going to be doing some Dynamite Kid matches. That's going to probably end up being a rabbit hole because you can really go to a lot of avenues out of Dynamite Kid. But we have a couple of our quicker topics. So first topic for the night is going to be, so what in your opinion is the worst year of wrestling ever? And now, I'm going to disclaimer this is going to be our year, so our criteria might vary. So I'm going to say off the top of my head, the years that came to mind when I thought of this topic is 1988, 1991, 1995, 1999, 2002, 2008, 2009, 2010, I would say would be contenders in there for me. And then it would be, I don't think I'd ever pick it, but I think 23 was pretty bad. And I think 2024 is getting into the really weaker side of years for wrestling. I think 23 was, so I think the difference between 23 and 24 for me is WWE's been a lot worse this year from what I've seen, but everywhere else has been a little better. Like New Japan's kind of been a little better. Stardom's been better. AEW's been better. So I think that's kind of balanced it out and made the year a little better.
I feel AEW has been night and day better this year. New Japan has not done well the first half. I think it's starting to recover a little bit.
The G1's been pretty good.
Yeah, but it's also not. I feel unfortunately like a lot of the young guys have not stepped up. Like I think Yuta Tsuji is probably the closest. Um, and he was like just in the finals of the G1. He lost to Zack Sabre Jr. But I think he's probably the closest. I could see him. I could. I that's the frustrating thing about New Japan is that they wait. I feel like they're in a position now because they've waited a
They,
long time
they didn't
to pull
trust
the trigger on
anyone.
some guys.
They didn't
They
trust
didn't, but
anyone.
but on the flip side of that is like maybe they were right because even guys who I thought like were ready, like Shota Umino, like he did not do a good job in the G1. So it's like, ooh,
Yeah, but sometimes
maybe no.
the problem is though, and I think people forget about this when they gave it to Okada. Like no one, like people were like, "What the hell?" when they gave it to Okada the first time. Sometimes, I mean, Shad's been in the business, but sometimes you just got to throw a guy into the fire and see what happens. You just got to toss him out there and say, "Go for it," and see what they do.
Sometimes you've gotta have someone go put the big pressure on them to see if they can handle it or not. Um, so I'm going to be real curious. This is a tangent related to it. I'm going to be real curious to see what happens with Takeshita post G1. But
He's done amazing. People on social media, and by that I mean like Twitter, have justifiably been a little salty. Where it's like because he had like an amazing performance in the G1
mm-hmm,
and really came off like a superstar.
mm-hmm.
And people are like, if he just comes back just to stand behind Don Callis for the next few months, it's going to be complete bullshit. And it's like I'm obviously partial to AEW, but that doesn't mean that everything AEW does is I feel correct, and I feel like they're right. Like Don, I feel like there may have been a purpose for the Don Callis family, but that was months ago when he could feud with literally like a year ago when he could feud with Kenny. But once that ended months ago, there's no need anymore. I don't need him.
You're being way too generous to that because this time last year, everyone was already sick of the Don Callis family. Like it was.
Yeah, that he had more like that. There was kind of like a storyline, at least going all in last year. But yeah, it's like it's been a year where it's like I think Takeshita can do his own thing, or if you want to, I don't know. You could pair him with a manager, but I don't. I'm kind of over Don Callis, so I don't know. But he should get pushed something
to bring him back. The thing that, in my mind, that stands out is that TK has been better about capitalizing on momentum than a lot of other places have seemed to be, and so I would be shocked, honestly shocked, for Takeshita to come back with this kind of momentum and nothing be done with it. So the idea of seeing Takeshita comes back, Callis is out there, running his mouth, and then we see Takeshita, wipe him out, and I don't know, pick, take the Continental title, and that's a recognition, that, hey, this guy's got it. We want it to be a thing. And then, hey, maybe you get like some awesome Okada Takeshita back and forth, and whenever we get to, set up for a Swerve Takeshita program or something like that.
He's kind of been.
I'm chewing my word. I'm chewing my words as I say that though, because I'm just like, but Hangman, because as the Trish and Sarah podcast, Hangman is my special guy. I want to see Hangman doing well. But
I mean, you and I, Chad, I've said before, like I think Hangman should be like your Sting, and by that, as people, I don't know how people would judge that because Sting was like the ace of WCW, and then that kind of went to the wayside because like Hogan came in and everything was about Hogan. But it's like Sting is like your guy that you can have as the ace for like the next decade, and he was at least. But Hangman, it's like you can have him be like one of your top guys for literally like the next 10 years. He's young. He's like 32, 33 maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. You can build around Hangman Page long term, and I'm not going to go down the path on what's going on right now. I'm just saying I want setting that particular special little guy thing aside. Seeing, Takeshita swerve for the title could be something really impressive.
The rumor is that we're getting at least Swerve versus Hangman at All Out, whether it's for the title or not. I don't know, but the one thing I will disagree with Trish and Sarah, it's like I understand that he's like their special guy, but it's also like I understand why they're doing like Danielson versus Swerve, because you either you're putting the title on Danielson or you're at least having him in the main event of like your biggest show of the year in what he said was like his last full-time year. And if he's not lying, because he does love to lie for statements he's made being tough at Cody Rhodes, if he's not lying that he needs like neck surgery, it's like he could be on the shelf if he does have to have neck surgery by the end of the year. Like he could be on the shelf for like
years,
a while, months, a year or longer.
So-
I don't know. We don't know what type of surgery it would be.
There was some clickbait article I saw. This is related to next, but not Danielson. But they're like, WWE superstar is like calling it quits and something. I'm like, they're gonna say Big E, even though we've known for like 3 years that he's never wrestling again. It was like, yeah, it's Big E. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
Like we knew this. We knew the second he got his diagnosis that he was never wrestling again. Like, I'm sorry.
It's because, for people who don't know, I mean, he got a fracture of like the C1, which is like that's right by your brainstem.
Yeah.
So you can heal from that and generally have like a relatively normal life, but not taking bumps on your neck like that. Because if you take the wrong bump, you literally can kill you. Like that's not even being facetious. Like because it can compress your brainstem and then it's lights out.
Yeah, because when you do that, like it doesn't. We talked about it on an old show and a doctor had talked about it. I think it calcifies when it heals like that. So like he's never gonna have like true stability in that area.
He just put a tweet out where I think he was saying it's kind of like a fibrous growth versus like ossifying, which is like new bone growth. Yeah. So it hasn't been healing correctly, which the problem is like he didn't injure it like last year. It's what, 2-3 years?
No, he basically said like, yeah, I think it's 2021. No, he won the title 2021. So he would have done it in 2022, I think.
At least could have been 2021, but at least 2 years, and he's basically saying like, yeah, we'll have to like figure out. Look, we'll have to make a decision in 2025. So it's like you're looking at another few months to a year.
Yeah.
But realistically, it's like it's not. And honestly, even if you like the WWE, he's like a star. It's like no one should probably let him step over because you can't.
You can't do it in good conscience.
He can't take bumps. Like he'd have to work a style where it's like he effectively can take no bumps. And even then it's like even like weird things can cause an impact. You just wouldn't take that risk. So I don't know.
There's no good outcome on this, so just don't.
So do you guys have any? Do any particular years stick out for you guys for like the worst year you can remember?
So I'm gonna check my understanding on some stuff. 95 was gonna be the down year for the WWF.
WCW too, because if you look at both companies, like
I'm doing one at a time.
Okay.
I'm doing one at a time. For the WWF, this was the time where the main event was what?
Diesel
Bret,
and
Taker, Shawn, Diesel
and Shawn main event in Mania, and that's when he sandbagged him. Then SummerSlam was Diesel and Mabel, and then Rumble was Diesel Hart, which was pretty good. And then I think there was like a Diesel Bulldog main event, and then like a Diesel Sid main event.
So the main event was basically built around Shawn, Bret, Taker, and Nash.
I'm not sure how much Taker was around in 95.
And then, he may have gotten hurt through there too. So we have this year where it's only built around 3 guys.
That might have been Opera Mask Taker year.
It might have been. Well, because Mabel hurt Taker and Nash both. So we've got this, and that's also the period where they were having a lot of the enhancement guys with wrestling as a second career kind of stuff going on with
And
the Goon and
Isaac Yankem.
Knuckleball Schwartz and Isaac Yankem, yeah, all that. So
Yeah,
you have
I'm looking. Isaac Yankem. I feel like there's a lot of gimmick stuff still going on.
Was
Yeah.
Well Done still around in '95, or they
I
been
don't
sent
know.
onward?
and then over in WCW, we're in this time period where they are just shoveling things at Hogan for Hogan to overcome for a crowd that doesn't really care.
Dungeon of Doom.
It
So you
was-
had like
yeah.
Kamala.
Kamala.
I think Matt
For
died.
Ugandan child,
Oh, Matt's still alive.
Kamala.
And then
Kamala.
so you had the Dungeon of Doom stuff. That was the end of like Vader. Obviously, they were just coming off of like Starrcade at the, to end '94 was Hogan versus Beefcake, which no one wanted.
Yeah.
Now I will say the one positive to we got the monster truck thing too. I will say the one positive though to WCW is, you had Nitro start, and then you did have like some work rate stuff starting to come in towards the end, like where you had like Benoit, like Eddie, Sabu, Liger, those guys were coming in. So that is like a high, I think a highlight for them, but I don't think that's enough to overcome how terrible it was.
And then the other thing that I'm going to compare it to is '99 was the era of Russo WWF and then WCW being just kind of all over the damn map, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
In '99. Yeah, and that.
And you had some Russo in WCW, so he polluted both companies.
Okay, he polluted both companies. He didn't, his damn proclivity for having as many people piled into one match as possible, so you don't have to think about it as much, and dumbass storylines and all this. Oh God, that's really tough.
Well, so
wasn't Mania '99 the one where the only good match on the card was Rock Austin as the main?
Yes.
Okay.
Now there are some things.
Didn't we do that one and it was awful?
That's one where Russo had the brilliant idea of he had Road Dogg and Billy Gunn win the other belt that they had been feuding for and like messed it all up like the week before. Now,
yeah.
I think there's things you have to consider too, though. So if we expand out a bit, so ECW was good in '95. That's probably, I think, what people would consider its best year creatively and everything. And that's when you had like the good, that's where, the luchadors came through, like Benoit and Malenko came through, Eddie came through, blah, blah, blah. '99 ECW wasn't very good. That's the start of like the TNN show. So it had a lot of problems. Now, if you go over to Japan, I'd say '95 All Japan is not like the best year, but you're still coming off that '92 to '94 run, and a lot of the magic's still there. By the time you get to '99, you really don't have it. New Japan is just an absolute disaster in 1999. Their '95's pretty decent though. Smoky Mountain Wrestling still exists in '95. It's not a great year, but it's still there. The USWA, I think actually the USWA has a decent '95. So I think, because that's where I really started getting into weeds for me, and I'm like, '99 just kind of sucked everywhere, and in like '95, like the big two suck, but there's like some. Oh, and I think AAA is really strong in '95 because that's like when it starts off, and I think that's where we saw like a bunch of those Ray Psychosis matches that are just outstanding is '95. So I think for me it's '99 just because it's terrible everywhere. Like everywhere has like a down year. I couldn't even tell you what the best match was that year. I think it'd be one of those WCW tags from like early in the year.
So what I am leaning toward, and this is personal, because I really hate Russo booking. It's not clever. It's not interesting. Just dumb. So I would lean in on 99 because you didn't have the smaller companies doing much. The big two are flailing around. It's just not great. So that's, I think, in terms of my personal taste, I'm going to put it on 99.
Yeah, and you did have the unfortunate effect of Boss Man desecrating a corpse at a funeral too.
You're
Okay.
a bastard. You're
That
You big old bastard.
you're a big dumb bastard.
And-
Okay, that's a little. That was a little funny.
And I think this is also, is this the Mae Young hand year? I think it is. I think that's
no,
also.
Yeah.
I thought it was 98. Like, I don't think it was 2000.
No, I think
No, I think it
90.
was 99.
Yeah, because 98 still
was-
wasn't totally stupid.
Yeah.
And then
'cause
you had Pepper.
Yeah. That's
think
what I was going to say. That too.
I feel 99 WCW still had some
It does.
moments that were pretty good.
So it's good
Decent.
until it's good. Well, okay, so obviously you get the finger poke of doom, but then you have
Yeah.
the Super Brawl that people were super into, but then they had Hogan beat Flair. Then they did the double turn, but like the matches were still good there. But then in May, like everyone gets hurt. So then you get like the Jersey Triad, which is kind of good, but then you get Nash's second reign as champion and him feuding with Savage. You get Hulkamania Hogan coming back, but then you get the No Limit Soldiers too. And that kind of carries you into Sting turning heel in September and
Which
beating Hogan for
they
the
wanted.
title. Yeah, and then Russo comes in, they like take the title off Sting and do this big like 32-man tournament that leads to
Yeah.
Mayhem, where Bret Hart beats Benoit in the final, I believe, of that tournament, which that match is actually really good. But then they do, I think Bret Hart and Goldberg win the tag titles at some point for some reason, and then they end the year off with having like the NWO Black and Silver come back. And that's
Yeah,
how-
I remember that, and that was dumb. Let me see. Was that? Yeah, that Spring Stampede '99
we did that.
was
on,
like,
yeah.
yeah, we did do that on the show. That was my idea. That was like the bright point of WCW for the year.
Oh, and we also
so for
get.
me,
I'm sorry. We also get Rick
Yeah.
Steiner attacking Sting with dogs, and we get the Junkyard Invitational that year in WCW.
Yeah, that's Russo-rific. What were you
wow,
gonna say, Matt?
okay. I guess so. Then for me, the calculation is like, was some of the WWF stuff in '95 better than the high points of WCW 1999? Because I think WWF in 1999 was garbage. I actually hate, people like rave about, oh, the Attitude Era. It's like,
It's terrible.
I actually think most of the Attitude Era is actually complete crap, and it's mostly because of Vince Russo. People, I forget who it is. Maybe it's like Suit Williams on Twitter, but he's been posting like every week where it's like, this is week number number X of Dynamite episode number 1, like whatever, like 300 or something, whatever. And then he's comparing it like this was the same episode of Nitro, because I think we're only like 30 something weeks away from Dynamite lasting longer than Nitro did. Which he keeps posting that because like Eric Bischoff is kind of like and delicately a twat who just loves to talk shit because he's a grifting asshole when he's not apparently being a mortgage broker for Conrad Thompson. He's kind of rubbing in his face because, like, let's be honest, like Dynamite, AEW, where they've announced the details, I think has probably or is on close to signing a new TV deal, so it's going to be around longer than Nitro. Let's be realistic.
Well, I think they just
another like.
I think the delay that happened, someone that was on the Inside Sources, is it keeps getting delayed because I think Warner Brother Discovery keeps offering them more money.
Well, I mean, if you kind of like read some chatter, listen to some chatter. Like they may do it because I think they're adding more shows. One of them maybe being like Ring of Honor potentially, even if it's on like streaming. And I think they've already kind of announced that they're doing like behind the scenes, like the lifestyles of AEW talent type of thing, where it's like, yeah, in this episode we're gonna watch Darby Allin almost kill himself by like doing some stupid stunt that he shouldn't. But my point is like, I guess like to go back to it, Steve Williams is like posting like stuff from, and he's at the point where he's posting episodes of WCW Nitro where like Vince Russo was in charge.
Is it like the
And it was
second
like-
run or the first run of? Is it like the? Are you at the?
I don't know what.
Are you close to the Millionaires Club stuff yet?
I don't recall. I had to actually study what the actual cards, but it's like garbage where it's like, how did people, including myself, like how did we ever watch that? Because it would be like 12 matches on a 2 or 3 hour show, and you look at the match links, and it's like the longest match is like 3 minutes, and it's like, this is terrible. Like why do we want this crap? Because it's like, because it's just crash TV, and that was fully in effect in 1999.
It was
WWF.
actively
That was
run.
terrible. Yeah. But I thought, I kind of remembered 99 WCW good for at least half the year, maybe.
It's
So
good till
it's like-
May, I think. I think you can. It's safe until
Yeah.
May.
So it's like that first 5 months or so. Is it better than
'Cause
95?
I
Because I
think
felt
that-
95.
I think the crazy thing with how bad 99 was, because I think those first couple of months of 99 for WCW are better than the second half of 98. Like, I think it actually rebounded a little bit, then it got real bad.
Yeah.
So
But if I look
ni-
at 95, 90, yeah, if I look at 95 WWF,
so you get
like there was a lot
Bret,
of crap there.
you get Bret
Yeah.
and Diesel at the Rumble, Bret and Shawn at Mania. I think
Was that the Iron Man match?
no, that's 96. That's Bret and
Oh,
that's
okay.
Bret. and
Okay,
Shawn.
good. I don't
Um,
have to express middle fingers to the camera then.
Like you can, I don't think it's a great feud or anything, but like Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow is not as bad as it could have been.
No, I remember it being decent. I have
And
to watch
then-
it again. See, it's many years since I've seen it, but
You get stuff like Bret Hart and Jinsei Shizaki doing matches. You get X-Pac and Jinsei Shizaki doing some stuff.
Shinzaki.
Yeah. You get
Yeah.
you get Razor Ramon.
Bushi.
You get Razor Ramon HBK ladder match 2 at SummerSlam, which is pretty good.
all right. So it's really like
I think
some of that higher end stuff with at least like the better.
I
the
think
higher end
Jarrett
workers.
Shawn was in 95. That like stupidly good one where like Jarrett called it and they like wrestled like a Memphis match.
Look, as an aside, another tangent, like we've talked about it before, it's like Jeff Jarrett's underappreciated. Like he's kind of always been good. And to circle back to like Trish and Sarah, it actually didn't finish this point from earlier. It's like I can accept Swerve versus Bryan Danielson because I understand the reasons why you would do it. It's either he's winning the title and you're adding Bryan Danielson, who is in the contention for the greatest of all time, legit. He's probably, in my opinion, at least top 5 in the top 5 for greatest wrestler of all time. Either you're adding him to your world title lineage, or he's really going to mostly, at least predominantly, retire and just be a part timer. In which case, you want to have that big like stadium show. It's this way of like kind of easing out. And then reason, so I don't this garbage and the garbage because it's not Swerve Hang, and it's like, yeah, everything has been leading towards Swerve Hangman kind, like that's, but I'm not like all in's gonna be crap because I'm not getting that match in front of like 50,000 plus people. Point is, like, if it winds up, they haven't announced it, but if it winds up being like Hangman Page versus Jeff Jarrett, which they've kind of also been building to, then I would be actually perfectly fine. Like have them go out there, have Hangman like beat the shit out of Jarrett for like 10 minutes, have Jarrett have a couple hope spots where he gets demolished.
Just let Hangman go full heel and destroy him.
How
Yeah.
good was that Danielson Jarrett match though?
I'm not surprised. Yeah, what? Well, I haven't seen it because I'd be honest with you because I'm still way behind. But I'm not surprised hearing that because Jeff Jarrett's amazing. Like, is he Danielson good? Like, I would say no. Like Danielson again, he's probably. I go back and forth whether I think it's Omega versus Danielson. And as compromised as a human being as he is, I think like Ric Flair is also still in the discussion for greatest of all time. But like, I'm not surprised. Yeah, Danielson one of the greatest of all time, and Jeff Jarrett is completely underrated. Like we've seen matches now where he's like very, very early in his career. He's still good, and
He is annoyingly good.
He's in his 50s now and is still good. Whether you think
Mhm.
it's like he's the best, you're not going to strap the world title to him. But it's like, oh, why is Jeff Jarrett on my screen? Because he's still good. Like he's compelling. Like he can have a good match with pretty much anyone. He's a great promo, and he can somehow make it compelling. Like there are people on the timeline on social media after he gave like his little speech about him being in the Owen Cup and how much Owen it meant to him and how much Owen meant to him. There are people who mean it's like, I want Jeff Jarrett to win at everything now. It's like that's not happening. They've already announced that like the winner is going to challenge Swerve at All In. Like you're not going to have the main event of All In be Swerve versus Jeff Jarrett. But I mean,
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett did that. Like he got people that invested in the storyline that people wanted that. So
I will say I think the big problem in 95 though in your calculations though is out like 1995 WCW is probably crawling really close to as bad as 1995 WWF. And I don't think 1995 WWF quite has the amount of decent that 1999 WCW has.
That's a calculation because I think 95 WCW is terrible.
Oh, it's terrible.
It would get worse. It would get worse.
Oh,
and like,
did that have that Chamber of Horrors electric chair match?
No, that was
no, that was 90.
That's we watched that, remember?
93.
Or was it the
Wait, what was the electric
91?
No, we watched it.
I mean the Chamber of Horrors.
Yeah,
it was like the Halloween Havoc. 90.
Because remember
91, right?
Remember Abdullah went in the chair, I think.
Yeah,
I actually love that match just because it's just dumb. It's so
you're right. We did do that one because it was El Gigante doing a good job at his role in the match. But
I think you're thinking of that.
I'm thinking of Hogan Savage versus the Dungeon of Doom in a cage.
Oh, that was 95. Oh.
I thought you were thinking about the
it wasn't it like the coalition to end Hulkamania or something like that, where they brought out, and this was a total Hogan like pulling creative control. All of a sudden they had Hogan versus Z Gangsta, and I think they changed his name, but like Sweet Hansen, who I don't know if he I guess he was a wrestler, but it's like I never saw anything he ever did besides this match. But he was initially dubbed the Final Solution before I think someone was like, you cannot call anyone that. No. But it was him versus those two versus the Dungeon of Doom again in the old school like tower gimmick that they did like way back in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Didn't I think that was totally a Kevin Sullivan gimmick. Because I remember like watching that way back in the day, and it's like the weirdest looking contraption with the most bizarre rules. But they had that. But Kevin Sullivan I remember was back in like the 80s match. I think it was like the Varsity Club. I don't know. I need to look this up. I think this is like the Tower of Doom or something.
I thought you were going to talk about the Castle of Terror or whatever. That was like Sting and Vader, I think.
The White Castle of Doom.
White Castle. I think Scott Keith dubbed it like the White Castle of Fear, like the.
It was on Wrestle Crap.
Well, that's why because the gimmick was Sting had to eat a bunch of sliders and then like make it through the maze before having digestive issues.
So it gets worse because was this also the year with Spin the Wheel, Make a Deal, Sting versus Jake Roberts in the Coal Miner's Glove match?
That was 92.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. A lot of those bad gimmicks, like they did like one a year.
It's just those things stand out in my brain.
And I think like Shockmaster was 93, 94 maybe.
I think that was Uncle Fred.
Okay. So you're thinking of Shad. You're thinking of WCW Uncensored 1996,
Oh, okay.
which was dubbed the Doomsday Cage match,
Oh
where
my
Hulk
That's
god.
Hogan
what
and
it
Randy
was.
Savage defeated Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ming, Barbarian, Lex Luger, Taskmaster, Z Gangsta, and the Ultimate Solution. Which is like this.
Yeah,
Even in the context of things, it's like Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage defeated like 8 guys.
yeah.
It's like, come on.
That is what I was thinking of, and it's I was off by a few months, but
No,
still.
I'm sorry. I know they said you can't do final solution, but don't change it to the ultimate solution because it still makes you think of the same thing.
Yeah, why is the name Solution in a wrestling gimmick? That is not.
Yes.
That's not something. That's not good to have in a wrestling gimmick.
It still has the same connotation because you're like, oh, so it's just a step above the final solution. Like, okay, guys.
Yeah.
It's just.
It's if you do the word entomology, it shakes out to the same meaning.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they looking at this, it was the Triple Cage match was I'm on Wikipedia. It says it was done by Jim Crockett Promotions and its predecessors, and I guess subsequent people like WCW. But I guess they did it in Great American Bash '88. That's what I'm thinking of when I first saw it. I think I saw it once because I rented like
That's where
Bash
like
88
they
from
because
the video store.
you had to go through like the stages and then like they ended it, but then the varsity club was stuck in there with someone and they were beating them up, and then the faces had to go through all of the stages again to like rescue them.
It's well, partly Varsity Club. Listen to this. So it was called a Tower of Doom match, and I guess the face team was the Road Warriors, Steve Williams, Ron and Jimmy Garvin against Kevin Sullivan, Mike Rotunda. That's Varsity Club. The Russian Assassin, Ivan Koloff, and Al Perez. Like Al Perez got in this. Okay. I mean,
Okay. I don't.
which Russian assassin? David Sheldon.
Oh my god. There's.
That's bizarre.
You know what? I think I'm actually going to be pivoting it to 95 instead of 99. Like, I hated a lot of stuff in 99, but I remember watching the lead up, like the finger poke of doom and some stuff around that. Like, the finger poke was not the thing that killed WCW. I know we've said that before, but it was a big indicator of a problem. But it didn't just drop off a cliff right then. It gradually declined. Like, it was making its way down. So
I hated 95 WCW. The whole like Dungeon of Doom stuff just did not.
is that the same year they also that Hogan also killed Vader?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am switching stances.
I
95.
I probably would go. I'd probably go 95 just because I thought 99 WWF completely sucked. But I kind of, at least in my memory, which may be bad, maybe so many years, and now at this point, 25 plus years since it, I kind of remembered at least liking half of 99 WCW.
Yeah.
But I didn't like much of anything from 95 95 WCW. And I probably, if I watched it again, would like at least some of the top matches from the very best guys in 95 WWF, but maybe that's not enough. Maybe it's like it's like a wash between 95 WCW and 99 WWF.
That sounds
I
right.
should probably like 99 WWF less, just because you probably at least had some good undercard stuff in WCW 95. Like Eddie Guerrero was probably having some good matches by then.
I think we'd
But
probably be shocked
I
if we
think
went through 95 WWF and be like, oh, there was a lot more good matches than we thought.
there might be. I think I probably would overall like 95 WWF less than 99 WCW. So I guess I would choose 95. But that's actually almost tough. We literally just had to like do the scale.
Yeah, it's the thing that puts it over the top for me is Hogan no-selling the Vader bomb and just, killing poor Vader deader than 4 o'clock. It's like, you know what, that's the capper on the crab sandwich. So
He could have at least done stuff he did like even back in like late 80s WWF, where it's like he takes the Vader bomb, he's like, doing like the jerking around, and then Vader covers him, and then he kicks out, and then hulks up, like whatever. Instead, it was just like Vader, like, Vader bombs him, like poses for like 2 seconds, and Hogan's immediately like hulking up like immediately, and it's like, come on, dude.
Was it a match or was that like a run-in attack?
It was a match, right? He had
It was
he had a series.
Super Brawl match.
He did have a strap. He had a strap match in '95.
And then they had the Bash of the Beach match.
Censored.
Now, I'm going to pick 99 because, so there's a couple reasons. Like I said, AAA is decent that year. The 1995 Champions Carnival is particularly strong that year.
Okay. So I was just counting.
Yeah,
just counting
so
WWF versus
my main argument for 95 is WCW and WWF are abysmal that year, but like All Japan's pretty decent. ECW's, that's probably the best year ECW has creatively. Like the stuff around them was like okay in 95, like there was good stuff to be had, but in 99, like there's nothing. Like All Japan's bad, New Japan's bad. There's nothing that special in Lucha. ECW's bad.
What year?
In 99, everything's bad.
Yeah, because I'm just looking because we actually did, reviewed this. Some of those, a lot of the Rey Mysterio Psychosis series was in 95. So that right there was like, that could carry Lucha for you. That's assuming like that was the only good Lucha stuff going on in 95. I don't want to change my answer for 90. I was kind of just more counting on just WCW versus WWF.
I had to split hairs because they're both like really terrible years.
If you do want to talk about other promotions or other like continents, even I would say probably 99 Japan, both New Japan and All Japan, was just
terrible.
Way nowhere near as good as 95. Like 95 and All Japan maybe like where it started going down, but they still had some good stuff there.
It's still living on it's still alive and well with the fumes of like 92, 93, and 94. And like I think there was some good stuff in like 99, but I think Noah was on the horizon like pretty soon into that. And 99 New Japan is just terrible. Like that's, Muda doesn't give a crap. He hasn't like redefined himself yet. I think Chono's hurt for a lot of it. The NWO is doing their thing over there and it's not great in my opinion. There's not any really good like junior stuff that year. So I'm going to say 99, but it sounds like you gentlemen are pretty solidly on 95.
Yeah, I probably would be.
There is just enough good in WCW in 99 for me to go with 95.
Okay.
Like, there is god-awful, insultingly bad stuff in 99. Its name is Vince Russo. But, you have Hogan and Savage beat 8 guys in a cage. You have, like, all that stuff. And you can't even claim it's the... Like, in 99, someone might make the claim that, it's the kind of the zeitgeist of the time of, edgy, wacky stuff on TV and crap like that. All right, fine. It still sucked, but
I guess you did
man,
get.
there's nothing redeeming about a lot of that 95 stuff.
You also in '99, like we go to ECW, you do get Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome, and I think you do get a number of the Jerry Lynn and Rob Van Dam matches that year. So if you wanna give,
99.
I
Okay.
think one of them's in '98, but I think two of them are in '99.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of like if you want to give some redeeming qualities to that year too elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So let's go on to our second question. So this is, what is a bad gimmick you like? So we'll make this one short. So the first one that comes to my mind is what I think is the best bad gimmick of all time, which is Hole-in-One Barry Darso.
I was looking it up because we were discussing 95 WCW. Who could forget Blacktop Bully, Barry Darso's previous gimmick over Hole-in-One Barry Darso.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Wow, that's a tough one. Well, would you consider this a gimmick? But obviously, my favorite jobber of all time remains the Gambler in WCW.
Yeah.
But that's kind of more a muted gimmick. Let me think on that.
Lasertron's a good bad one. That's one of my personal favorites.
That was
too.
Hector Guerrero, right?
Yeah,
Back in the day.
I
remember I think he was a tag team. They didn't have like the full every match, but I think he was in one like the '87 Crockett Cup. I think he was a tag team with Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. But
yeah, I think it was kind of a dumb gimmick, but I do love the Fabulous Rougeos and their All American Boys like theme song.
All American Boys.
It just makes you want to boo them so hard. Man, the problem is like some of the like I guess Gilbert. I like Gilbert. He was funny. It was a dumb gimmick though, because
Gilbert was an amusing satire.
Because I always loved,
but a little too on the nose.
My favorite part though is like when he would come out and they'd spray him with the fire extinguisher and he would freak out. Yeah.
See, my problem with like the Gilbert entrance stuff, that was funny. The thing that bothered me was it was a bit too on the nose. He gets in the ring, misses the spear, goes for the jackhammer and screws that up, and then you have Michael Cole say, he really does only have two moves, and it's just like, okay, now we've gone from satire to being like,
yeah.
So I like amusing, but now bad gimmick that amused me.
Now can we call it a bad gimmick? Because I think it's something someone should bring back. But when Hardcore Holly was doing the super heavyweight gimmick and he'd bring the scale down, I love that.
I always walked the line on that gimmick about whether or not they were delusional or if they would just claim it was as a means of trying to get some leverage or something.
I always looked at it as Hardcore Holly was being a prick and Crash Holly was delusional.
And that's why Hardcore made Crash carry the scale.
Yeah. Well, remember Molly was part of them to start with too.
Was she really?
Molly Holly.
Yeah.
She was like their cousin or something.
You're right. I don't know if we can call it a bad gimmick. It's not a... You know what? It's... Like, they were successful enough. I don't think it was a great gimmick, but I still got a lot of amusement out of 3 Count.
Oh, yeah.
The WCW wrestling boy band that was Evan Courageous, Jamie Noble, and
no, it was Shannon Moore and Shane Helms. Jamie Noble was in the Young Dragons.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Evan Courageous, Shannon Moore, and
Jamie's son, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
they pulled the old Kato from Orient Express. They put a mask on it to show he wasn't actually like a non-Asian guy. That
because then that moved into from being in 3 Count to Sugar Shane Helms, where the Nitro Girls would change gear and be the sugar babies for his entrance. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 3 count. I liked that. You might look at, oh, that's dumb, but I liked that.
This isn't really like my answer or a good answer, but because we've reviewed many of his matches and I actually love the gimmick, but I mean, you can kind of maybe think like Doink was like a dumb gimmick, but it was actually awesome. So
I would
I don't know.
say that Doink was not a dumb gimmick because in its inception, it did exactly what it was supposed to, and it did a really good job. It became dumb later when somebody else was given the gimmick.
And they brought Dink in and stuff.
Yeah, I had to tell someone about Doink and the Dinks versus Lawler and his court, and how that was an actual thing that happened. He was like, "No, it didn't." And I was like, "Get your phone out and Google it right now." And he looks at it and looks at me and goes, "Why do you know this?" I said, "I'm a landfill of this sort of stuff, man. I'm not proud of it."
I'd totally forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have
Hold on, let me actually hold on really quickly. I mean, you probably can just pull, if you really want to talk about it, that kind of dumb gimmicks that are fun gimmicks. There's probably like a dozen at least that you could pull from. You could pull from like Chikara,
Oh yeah, definitely.
like Darkness Crabtree, or like Hydra.
CP
No,
Monk.
I change my mind. 3 count was too good a gimmick for it. My favorite dumb gimmick of all time was Dragon because he was a huge dragon.
Yeah,
That's
fun.
final answer. Where's the button for me to hit? I don't have a button to hit.
I would actually argue Hydra's a good gimmick, especially when he like started wearing the bodysuit and coming out to "I'm Not Gonna Go to Rehab" by Amy Winehouse.
Mm-hmm.
I should really just pay for a collection of Chikara stuff
You
and
can.
just binge.
It's all on IWTV, I think, if you subscribe to the.
I just need to buy it and binge the whole thing, and then turn around and say to people, "It's like, no. You need the right entry point. Let's watch Chikara."
The right entry point is when the BDK starts, I would say.
I just mean to wrestling in general, because there are some people that they get their entry into stuff that makes them laugh, that they smile, and so if you take the stuff that makes them laugh, mix it with something else, and put it together, then you can bridge that gap.
I was gonna say with Chikara, there's like a point where, like, because it's a lot of students. There's a point like where they pass a point of experience and the in-ring work like goes up, and it became like I think like 2008 to 2012 is like the height of Chikara. Like, and there's legitimately an argument in like 2008, 2009, 2010 that it was the best promotion in North America.
No, yeah, that there were actually some kind of brief discussion on Twitter recently. And I actually kind of waded into that, and I maintain it. Like, there was a period of time where it's like if you didn't live through that era, perhaps, like you don't really necessarily get it. But there was the argument that at least in North America, it was possibly the best like booked, most interesting like North American wrestling company. And that's not even being facetious. Like, it had the most interesting storylines. It had interesting characters. The work rate was good.
A good stable that they built like the promotion around.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we ready to hit the main topic of the evening? Okay, so this is going to be, so we watched an assortment of Dynamite Kid matches. So I really don't know what you can say about Dynamite Kid other than he was like an innovator. I would say he's a huge influence on like 90s juniors. Like, there was a lot of stuff watching this, and I've seen Dynamite Kid before, but I was watching a lot of this stuff. I'm like, I mean, you could just see how much like Chris Benoit like aped him, like unapologetically. I'm like, oh, that's a Benoit move.
Shamelessly.
Yeah. Like even his snap suplex, I'm like, oh, you bitch, you ripped that off from him like wholesale.
The diving headbutt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he took that from Harley Race because he did it to he did it like to no, he didn't do it to Harley Race in this match. He did it to Jesse Barr, but like he did
Jesse Barr.
Yeah.
Well, Harley kind of innovated that because there was some discussion that after the fact, he kind of regrets having done that move or originated that move because he feels that a lot of people like really maybe gave themselves CTE or caused other prop from doing the move.
The thing that gets me is that when Harley Race or like Bam Bam Bigelow would do a diving headbutt, they would do it very differently than Dynamite and Voldemort did. Like Dynamite and Voldemort would like arms up, spread out, land on their chest and their head, whereas like Harley comes down, he's got his arms down. Bam Bam has his arms kind of tucked underneath him. Like they are protecting themselves for it, as opposed to the other two who just completely plow out.
I don't mean this to be very mean. I really don't. It's going to come off as mean, but it's not meant to be mean. But Bam Bam, and I'm going to say this is a joke just to pop Matt, but Bam Bam was a great big fat person, and Bam Bam landing on his stomach meant like it means different.
Big fat person.
Yes, but I mean like he was a bigger guy, so like Bam Bam landing on his stomach is like probably less damaging than
But he still did it stylistically differently.
Yeah, and they didn't
in a safer way.
And that was he only did that. He only did that maybe like 4 or 5 times a year, versus those guys.
Every match.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Shad, you were actually the only one of us to actually step in the ring. Like I can conceptualize if I were to do that move, I can conceptualize doing it, but really doing it in a way where I'm taking the brunt of the force on like my torso and belly. And then maybe like not shoot, but kind of like I'm landing on my this, and then I like look like I'm like, I don't know if that would actually work in practice. I know that when you're given like a standing, well, unless if you're, well, if you guys have reviewed the final match I suggested, where it's Dax versus Tom Billington, but I mean, I understand like to give a guy a worked headbutt generally, it's like, you grab the guy by the head and you're like, ah, and what you're doing is like you're banging your forehead or head on the meat of your hand, so you're not actually. You're like, ah, and you can do it in a way where you can work it, where it's like they look like they're getting hurt. You're really not hurting yourself either. You're just like hitting your hand. So you can obviously the more like holding on to someone's head, like and like make it look visually like you're really hurting, but you're not. But
so when I would do it, I would reach over and I would grab their head like this, and when I would go in for it, my head would come in and actually land on my thumb. But whenever it came in and I did that, I would shove them away from me.
See.
So, wham! And,
technique, but you're still not actually making like...
I'm not headbutting the guy yet.
Yeah, you're not actually making like a skull-to-skull connection. There's something you're doing to actually not either distribute, not really even putting force, but to the extent that there's a barrier between, or you're doing like you did, where it's like, as soon as my head touches my body part, But I just cue all that, Yeah.
I always felt the guys that looked like did it safer use the side of their head versus the full brunt of like their forehead.
So, okay, little bit of background for you. In the martial arts that do headbutts regularly, the problem is people do headbutts and they're expecting to hit with the forehead right here. This is called a bad idea, also known as stupid. You don't want to hit with this part of your head. If you're going to headbutt somebody, you move up to the crown of your head, where your forehead meets the top of your head, because that's harder and it's easier to hit if you turn a little bit. So here, hitting right here, you want to miss the nerve that runs down right here. So, there's a nerve that runs down from your crown to your eyebrow, so you want to miss that. But if you turn and hit with it, then you can deliver a legitimate headbutt that way. But then also it helps whenever you're because whenever when I was doing it, I was landing on my thumb, but I was hitting it with the crown of my head too. This is way harder than this is, and so in doing that, whack, and then, but the guys who just headbutt and hit with this part right here, they make me cringe and make me sad. And to be honest, I remember we were talking about it, and I remember that Spring Stampede 99 tag match that was Raven and Saturn versus Malenko and Voldemort, and here he comes off the top of that diving headbutt, and he just lands bigger than anything right here.
Didn't he go through a
Wham,
table doing
on a
that
chair.
too? Oh, it was a chair. Okay.
He landed on a chair. Somebody went through the table on the outside, but it was, especially now I see that and I'm like, oh god, that's the worst.
Trademark super genius Eric Bischoff doesn't like that match and didn't see anything in Raven or Saturn in that era because he's an idiot.
I don't understand how.
Because he's an idiot.
Yeah,
because they didn't work for the WWF.
It is so alien to me how you can look at those two in that era and not see the potential out of it.
Well, at least hear the crowd, like multiple crowds.
Yeah.
Well, remember, I watched that show before you, and Matt hadn't watched it yet, and I was like, I would have come out of that show and made like Raven the top face in the company, and Matt was like, "What are you talking about?" Then he watched it, and he was like, "Oh."
Mm-hmm.
Well, Raven liked tagging with Saturn, especially in that match, because he could lay on the apron and not do anything. So I would not have made him the top face in the company, but I probably would have done more with him.
Yeah, I think that I wonder with someone without context to that era, with like the Saturn dress thing, whatnot, like, because I think I've seen people do that before that are weirded out by it, and people have to feel like he's just doing a Marilyn Manson gimmick. That's all.
Yeah.
And because they don't have like a context. Because recently I had seen like some Marilyn Manson music videos of that era, and I was like, damn, like I wish he wasn't such a piece of shit because like he really made some like great music videos in that era.
Oh yeah, he's just an awful, awful, horrendous person.
Yeah.
But
makes a good music video and some good like music. I mean, most of those guys are garbage, but
I mean, if, there are people who still stand up for Roman Polanski too. So,
ugh.
Right.
So,
in any event,
so our first match of the night is from from '78. So this is Dynamite Kid versus Bret Hart. Now, if you wanna be angered and watch this, which I think Shad might have been. So Bret Hart is 21 years old, and he is like 2 years into his career at this point. Because I was like, he's young, but I was like, damn, like he doesn't have like, so Bret doesn't have like the gravitas yet. He doesn't have the charisma, but he was doing stuff. And, like, he did a couple stomps, like, well, there's the Bret Hart stomp. He did something else. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's the Bret Hart. Like, even when he did, like, the single leg crab, I'm like, he almost has, like, the sharpshooter there. Like, he's doing it, like, the same way. But I came away, I'm like, wow, Bret's really good in this. Like, he needs to fill out a bit and he needs some work to do. But I'm like, as raw as he was, I'm like, wow, he was really solid in this.
Mm-hmm. He did the chest bump in the corner also. It wasn't as polished either, but he did do it there also. How can I best put this? I did not think as much of this match, and I can't decide if it's a product of the times thing because this is in '78. Is it a product of the times thing, or is it? Because if it's a product of the era, then my criticism won't hold water. But
I mean, it was very I think it's a Stampede style thing because I think this is in Stampede.
This was in Stampede, and if you actually listen to some of the commentary,
I hated the commentator for this.
I think it was Ed Whalen.
Oh my god!
Well hated.
I think it was Ed Whalen. He wasn't very good.
No one likes Ed Whalen. Just so you know, Shad. Like he's notorious because he's like so for background, Ed Whalen. He's like a sports guy they gave Stampede to, so he like buries it all the time because he doesn't want to do it. So he's kind of a noted
Well,
jackass. Like there's some
he-
people that watched it at the time that like have fond memories of him, but most people coming in are like, I hate him.
but
Yeah.
he is awful at his job in this.
Oh yeah, he's
This is a Stampede match. It's for the British Commonwealth Mid Heavyweight title, which was a title that had not been around even like I think it was created earlier that year.
it's
But
probably made for
uh,
Dynamite Kid, if I had to guess.
yeah, probably. But it is kind of for the time. But if you listen to the commentary and actually picks up, like this was apparently a 2 out of 3 falls match, which they already 1 out of 1. Like I think Dynamite got a fall and Bret got a session with the little stretch.
Yeah, because they were in
And this was
the
apparently a
they went to a 40-minute time. Like it was like they're at
it
40
was like a
minutes.
45-minute. It was like a 40 draw. What would have been a 45-minute draw, a draw, and it was a match like 35 minutes.
Yeah.
We're told that. Told it's like so all there's been like 35 minutes. I thought I kind of with the shadows. It's a great match. I picked the matches for the show this week. Like I did this one. It's great. I think because like it's fascinating because like Brett's very young. You kind of see some of that eventually develop into where 10 years later he more fine-tuned a bunch of stuff. And it's a young Dynamite Kid who also like would like change the next 10 years, but you can see some flashes of like what he would be. And it's kind of fascinating. Like they're both smaller. They're both very young, very green still, but you could see some of the highlights of what they would be and how they're putting everything together. And I actually thought they were like they worked snug. Like they kind of sold being 35 minutes into a match. It was interesting. Like I thought it's a kind of fascinating early look at both guys who became kind of legendary in their own right.
Yeah, I thought it was
So
fascinating. So the next match is in 81. I found how
Well-
fascinating it was how so the Dynamite Kid in this match versus the Dynamite Kid you get in 81, like how much he progressed in that 3 years.
Very.
It's like
3 years.
it's like when
Very
we did
different.
this
3 years.
It's
yeah.
like when we did the Sting thing, and it's interesting how guys like Sting did this too, like how you learn to have like a personality, or like you learn to project better. But like because this I was like, oh man, Dynamite Kid's kind of like a little like I was more into like what Bret was doing than Dynamite. Like Dynamite to me in this match was kind of cardboard.
So, for me to hate on this match properly, the thing that bugged me through this whole thing was that they would have spots they did, and then these big gaps in between. And you're 35 minutes into a match. At that point, it would have been, yeah, I would have, you've got a spot where, for example, Bret takes the corner bump, and Dynamite's over there and Bret's over here, and then they don't really do anything for a while, and then Bret shoves Dynamite out of the ring, and it takes Dynamite a while to get back in there, and then they don't do anything for a minute, and then he shoves him out of the ring again. The gaps are too big between what they're doing, and for the kind of match they had, I would have expected that if one of them's down, the other one moves over and like slaps a hold on or something, as opposed to just having so much air in between.
I'm going to assume that that's like probably
I'm guessing that's a Stampede thing,
experience.
and like they were doing like a
Could
real
be.
sport thing.
That could be. I was gonna say it might actually be like an experience thing where it's like they knew the finish. It's like they were gonna go 45. So they're just working out the pacing and the way they figure is the best way to pace it, and it may have been like bad pacing.
Well, they could have been
But-
deliberately doing stuff like the first Flair Sting time limit draw. Like a big criticism people have about that is Sting keeps doing the same move over and over again. And I'm like, well, yes, like Sting is doing like a hip toss over and over again, but Sting is playing a young green guy getting his first title shot that can't finish the deal because he doesn't have the tools at his disposal. So yes, young Sting is doing the same move over and over again, but that's part of the narrative of the match, is that Sting can't finish the deal and he's just trying to do moves to get it over again. So I'm wondering if, like, in full context, we had the full match, if part of those pauses are, well, they're young and inexperienced and they just don't know how, like, they don't have that killer instinct. They don't know how to, like, finish the deal. Because I think
They
sometimes
don't capitalize on
yeah,
anything.
because I think sometimes, like, that is a good thing to put into, like, a wrestling match, is when you're young and, like, you can't, like, don't have, like, that next gear. You don't have the ability, like, you don't have the, oh, I just have to hit the big move now, like, that kind of knowledge. Like, I think people miss that.
Normally it plays out that way naturally without
Yeah.
any.
But so like I said, I don't know if there's, like, maybe some narrative reason for that in this, but, like, I noticed that too. But like I said, I thought Dynamite was a little bit of a nothing in this. I was much more interested in Bret, because, like, Bret felt better in this. Like, I think he felt greener than Dynamite, but I was kind of like, oh, Bret's kind of, Bret's got some stuff in this. Like, he's obviously, like, way green, but I'm like, for being 2 years in and being 21, like, he's not Sean Waltman good, who was just stupid, like, how good he was.
Or Jarrett good that early.
Yeah, but he was like, he was like, or even Terry Gordy, who is just stupid, like how natural he is. But I was like, oh, for like 2 years in, like, he's pretty. Because I look at, I mean, and I think we made this comparison a lot, and I probably make it too much, but I look at wrestlers a lot like I look at stand-up comedians. Like, he's 2 years in, like, he's pretty good for 2 years in.
I think it's a really good comparison because you're dealing with a performance wherein you have nowhere to hide when things go wrong. You have to have the experience to be able to chain things together, and you have to keep the audience's attention without them getting bored.
Yeah, and you're going to suck at it for a long time.
You may have enough skill early on to be able to keep people engaged, and that's great, but there's a lot of honing that has to go on to really hit your final form, or whatever term we want to use.
Yeah, and because, like, if you listen to comics talk about it, like, the kind of accepted notion in stand-up comedy is, hey, you're going to suck for the first 10 years. Like, you're not going to be very good. You're going to cringe looking back on it. And I think wrestling doesn't take that long, but, like, when I look at wrestlers and they're, like, 5 years in, I'm like, like, you're figuring it out. Like, you need to get the fine, like, points down. And then, like, but, like, when you hear, like, when someone's been at, like, 7 years and they're still crap, it's like, okay, you suck. But, like, a good one is, like, Nyla Rose when she started in AEW. Like, I think she still struggles.
Yeah.
She still struggles to get that personality she has to come through. But, like, that's someone that you could see, like, work the rough spots out, get the psychology down. Sunny Kiss was like that. I think I have someone on the tip of my tongue and I can't think of who they are now. Will Ospreay, like, kind of turned that corner. Cody, I mean, it took Cody a while, but
Cody had to get to where he had a better environment to really kind of branch out into.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually think the Nyla Rose comparison is a good one. That's a good example, because I actually feel Nyla started 5 years ago in AEW to now, like, has improved dramatically. And it's interesting because I mean, for those who follow her on media, like, she has really turned face, like, in the actual ring. You could totally, like, actually push her as a face because she's so much that personality. It's like,
He's really funny.
I laughed at that.
Like, incredibly charismatic. Like, she actually put up, and that I feel his face, like, that's probably the number one thing you really need. Like, you need charisma to match it up. I think you could do it, but
I still laugh at. So this is like a month or two old, but so, like, Serpentico got a cameo of her to make her say something nice about him, and instead she drowns herself in the pool and starts just floating.
See, I don't remember who it is that I saw on X, formerly known as Twitter, but they said the native beast is not who Nyla Rose is. That's why it's not connecting. They were quoting a tweet. They said, "This is who Nyla Rose is. This is what needs to come through on TV." And I was like, "Yeah."
Oh, incredibly charismatic. Like so much fun on social media. Like genuinely a hilarious human being.
Yes, really
And
funny.
she's local to like the DC area, so it's like she's been like local shows, like indie shows. She'll just do them, and I think she's like obviously like we're kind of was almost like a hometown hero babyface, just because I feel like she's probably in real life she's probably like so fun to hang out with or be around, because just you can't be that charismatic and have that good of a personality and just be like a bore in real life. Like you're probably like a lot of fun, but
there are some people who in written formats come off as very funny, but in person they're incredibly dry. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just sometimes that's a difficult transition for some people.
Yeah. So the next two matches though, I was drooling at these ones because so we've mentioned him in passing before. And legitimately, and I'm not over exaggerating in this, I don't think he would be a GOAT, but I think he belongs in the conversation. And if I did like a top wrestlers list, he would be like top 50, probably pushing into like the 30s or up on that. But this is Rollerball Mark Rocco, who is legitimately one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Like he is
and
a legend, and Shad had never seen him before, and I think Shad was a little not sure when he saw the gear, but like, man, he is so good. Like, well, these matches are really good, but man, Rollerball is just a master of his craft.
Rollerball Mark Rocco, he's probably not, he's almost forgotten, I feel, unless you've seen basically like the World of Sport, like
and
the actual British wrestling.
I think he was hurt by the fact that like if you would look, because I knew who he was, but like until like really that footage revolution of like the late aughts, there wasn't a lot of him out there, and there's a lot of him out there now. But I think it's funny. Like what speaks to what's a testament to how great he is I went in looking because I'm looking to hype up Dynamite Kid, and all I came out of that doing is like, God damn, I want to talk about Rollerball. Like I want to do the next episode. I want to do the Marty Jones match. Like
Marty Jones, everyone, Marty Jones. The announcers for World of Sport are actually like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
he says
you know what?
Dry British voice. Mark Rollerball Rocco versus Marty Jones, everyone.
What I love about World of Sport though is the crowd. Like all the crowd, they're in suits and like their Sunday's best to come and watch like their matches.
We are here to enjoy our entertainment grappling. Would you please commence?
So,
Shad, I told you we're doing the Big Daddy.
Oh God!
Giant haystacks. Where are you going? Come back! No, pull him back.
Shad just quit. Craigbot, you're in the.
Craigbot.
Yeah. So while Shad
answer me, Craigbot.
So while we're so if you haven't watched World of Sport before, so it's different. So it's a round system. They're 5-minute rounds. Yeah.
Well, one of the second match was like 15 3-minute rounds.
Yeah,
I actually how long the round systems typically were.
So then the way you win is you either get 2 pins, 2 submissions. I think you can mix or match them, and then DQs are
a knockout. Right?
Yeah, you can do it.
I think
you're right.
I think 1 knockout, you're done. But
yeah, and then you get for a DQ you get 2 public warnings, which they announce on like the PA, and so which is interesting. That's an interesting bit of psychology because I like that in the first match, the public warnings really play in because Marty Jones. Oh no, sorry, my brain's elsewhere.
Mark
Rollerball
Rocco.
gets 2 public warnings pretty quick, and he has to kind of change his tactics up. And then
Yeah, I forgot about the warning system. If you're
I
a
did
little
too.
too aggressive, too
Yeah.
violent, or not following the rules
Yeah,
necessarily,
and
like you get a warning,
then the
which makes
pins.
sense. I mean, like it's almost like a soccer real sport type of thing where it's like here's your warning card,
Yeah,
here's your yellow card, your red card.
and now the pins are gonna freak you out at first if you've never watched World of Sport because the refs don't get down until they confirm the pin, but they yell the count
Yeah,
out,
they're like,
and then they get down and they kind of do the tap, which
mhm.
really when the first time I watched World of Sport, it like really like weirded me out because it's really kind of bizarre. But so we did the AWF back in the day, and the round system of that was just awful. It was freaking terrible because
Yeah.
no one knew how.
World Sport. Yeah, World Sport. I feel like there is some adjustment, but I mean, this is like I'm not trying to be like a cultural type thing, but I feel it's probably even like a little more easy. You have to adjust, but it's a little easier almost to understand than like lucha sometimes, because sometimes lucha
Yeah.
can be like, what's happening?
Well, Lucha like changes like basic concepts of wrestling in its approach.
Yeah.
But what I thought now the ground system here though, where you see some of the smarts in working this out, is in the second match. Rocco beats up Dynamite Kid so bad at one point the Dynamite Kid can't even get to his corner between rounds, and Rollerball just goes right back on the attack after he takes the drink of water, wipes his head off, and he just starts beating Dynamite Kid up again, which I thought worked well. Now, Shad really hated it in the AWF. So did you? With it a little more worked better, were you at least?
It was worked better, but I still don't like it. And I think that's a stylistic choice. Because in the course of doing this, the thing that bothers me, and the difference between this and the AWA is that the AWA, whenever they did it, it was full stop, like everything stopped. And here, like you said, some psychology persisted across the rounds. But my problem is that I don't like it because even if it isn't a full stop, I don't like slowing down the psychology of the match, having that built into it. It feels like an unnecessary obstacle that doesn't need to be there. Now, I'm not saying that it is a bad concept in general or anything. I'm telling you why I don't like it. And I would not like working that style.
What did you think of?
I can see that. Let me finish, like
Okay,
quick thought. I can see that. I also feel that's kind of owing to where the decision of disbelief. Like I was trying to present it as like a sport type of thing, where it's like think of it like a boxing match, where it's like I'm pummeling my opponent to bell rings. So it's like I got to disengage now, even though maybe in a few seconds I can knock this guy out, but I got to disengage because like it's the end of the round. So I think I could kind of place that. Same time, I do understand your criticism. I get it, because you're kind of potentially breaking up the flow of the psychology of the story you're trying to tell. There is something like Brad mentioned ago, where it's like I'm pummeling you to ends, but it's like you get your corner because I knew so badly. But I get it. I mean, I get the criticisms. I can understand the concept for why you have it. So I guess I'm kind of like neutral. I'm being Switzerland here. I'm neutral. I can see both sides. So,
what did you think of? What did you think of the public warning system for the DQs?
I mean, it's fine, I guess. Not what I'm used to. B, I mean, if you formalize it, it feels like it takes a little bit of the flexibility out.
I think it could affect psychology.
Obviously, the ref still has the discretion about whether or not they're going to issue the formal warning for the infraction, I guess. But it bothers me because if you formalize it that way, and I may be being too abstract in this, But the reason I don't care for it is, say in a North American match, your typical American wrestling match, and someone keeps habitually line stepping the ref. You may have one ref who warns him over and over again and then never does anything about it. And now, okay, you've got a soft hand ref on that. Or if you got one ref who warns him, and then DQs him because, like, I told you not to do that. I don't know. It feels like it takes that aspect of variability out of it, and then it also takes the freedom to use it in the case that you're having to cover up something that happened.
I actually thought the second match was interesting because the ref was very loud and you could hear everything he was saying to them, which I actually liked because it helped with the psychology of the match a lot. Like, with that guy being so loud, I understood, like, okay, like, whoa, you can punch him or you can do this move that's kind of skirting the rules, but it's like the follow through that he's going to ding you on.
Was there a rule about how you're not supposed to attack an opponent who's down on the mat? Was that a thing, or was I misreading?
I think you're not allowed to do it extensively, because I think they did do some stuff, like because there were things like if they were forearming each other, they'd kind of be like, "Hey, stop doing that," because they'd also be like, if you were choking someone, it'd be like, "Okay, break the hold." Like, break the hold. Okay, I told you to break the hold. Like, you're getting a warning. Like, is kind of how it seemed to work.
I think it was like a contextual where it's like I'm hitting a guy, and the bell rings, like the round is ended. And I'm still hitting him. It's like, you warn me, but you don't immediately like disqualify me. Unless I'm still doing it like a minute later. But if you're still like the heat of the moment, then it's like, okay, like disengage, like break off. And you still do it for a couple seconds. Like,
it seemed to be it seemed to be acceptable because Dynamite Kid at one point did like a suplex and they were fine. Like, the bell had rung like when he was getting ready to do the hold, but it seemed acceptable that he finished the move he was doing even after the bell, and the announcer didn't seem to have an issue with that. So
I think the context would be like he does the suplex, the round and the round ends as he's finishing, as he finishes the move, and it's like he could walk away, but then he walks over and like just starts stomping on the head, and it's like, that would be no, like the round is ended, like, stop.
So there's
an actual aspect to it.
Yeah, so the basic idea of these two matches for the story, which I think is actually one of the reasons I like World of Sports. So the idea is Rollerball won the middle heavyweight championship, I think is what they called it. Is that what they called it? It was really cumbersome.
Something like that.
Actually. Yeah.
The heavy middle, something. Okay. So he wins that belt, and then he has a non-title match with Dynamite Kid. So Dynamite Kid beats him. So then, like, I think like a month or two later, they have a title match because Dynamite Kid beat him. It's kind of like how they went it, and they explained it a little bit. Like, there's weight classes, so they're in the same weight class. It's very real sporty. Now, the one thing you'll notice, and they showed at one point, so Rollerball had a wound on his leg because he did and he did the dive during this. Like, he does this like kind of dive through the ropes when he's selling, and he caught himself, they said, on the ring hooks, and he put this huge gash in his leg, and they pulled it down to check on it at one point, and oh my god, it was
horrific.
Yeah,
it's
stitched up.
Let's be honest, it was like 6 inches long, so it was long. It was big. It was a big, and he had like basically what would amount to almost like a fabric like band on his thigh, almost like a knee brace type of thing, but like fabric. It didn't seem like it was a bandage. And it was stitched, and I think the stitch had healed where it wasn't oozing blood or anything like that, but it was nasty looking.
I think it might have been like I mean, we'd call it a compression sleeve now. I think what it was doing was putting pressure to keep it from
compression sleeve. Yeah.
To keep it the wound like stationary so that it wouldn't bust open on him, I think is what was happening. But
Right.
I mean, but my thought was like, damn, he's lucky he like didn't like go through that and nick an artery, because that would have been bad.
It was nasty. I don't know. From that,
And this isn't HD, and you could still tell how gnarly it was.
yeah. I mean, I'm speculating, so please pardon me for that for a second. But it looked like one of those things where it could have like caught the skin and just like unzipped that open without getting too deep. But still, that makes for a nasty visual, because that's he had the sleeve on it. It was stitched. It looked rough. Yeah.
Now, what I love about Rollerball is everything he does looks like it hurts, because he really puts like a snap. Like he did this elbow drop, and like just there's this snap he has in like everything he does that just makes even like the most mundane of moves look like they hurt.
I actually wrote that down in my notes. Like there was actually like a viciousness going on here, where like everything looked like real snug and stiff. Like like
you know what? My takeaway was like, damn, like Keiji Muto kind of ripped his movement style off in a certain way. Like there was a lot of stuff he did. I'm like, did Muto watch this? Because like the way he did like his elbow drop was very like Muta-esque.
Well, it's very possible, because for those who don't know, like Mark Rollerball Rocco was the original Black Tiger, who was a masked wrestler, but worked in New Japan in Japan as a foil for Tiger Mask, the original Tiger Mask, and then also had some matches with a very, very young Jushin Thunder Liger.
Yeah, I want to do that on the
even,
show.
I don't even think he was under the Jushin.
No, he's unmasked, because it was his real name.
Yeah. So he was in Japan. He had tours of Japan. So a young Muto could have seen him, if not like, I don't know if I don't know when he started. So it's like, I don't know if he saw him like, you're in the locker room with me, or if he just watched him because he was in Japan doing stuff, and then Muto shortly thereafter joined wrestling. But
he might have been doing his
saw some footage.
He might have been around, because he might have been doing like, because his first gimmick before Muta was like a space cadet gimmick. If you look up things, I don't know if it was like a space cadet thing, but he was doing kind of like a sci-fi, like kind of like a Star Blazer type gimmick.
But I mean, my point is like Rollerball was in Japan and could absolutely hang with some of the best like junior heavyweights of the era. And I didn't include any of the like the Dynamite Kid Tiger Mask matches, but I mean
that's a show on its own. I'm glad you didn't go for any of those.
Yeah, those are effectively like iconic and influenced almost, you could say, like a generation of people, because that and not just if you watch them 40 years after the fact, they still hold up. And I mean hold up, I mean like, oh, this is pretty good for the era, whatever. It's like, no, like if you had two modern guys replicate those matches move for move, like nothing, they literally are cutting move for move the matches, including the reactions and the selling, everything, people will be like, oh, great match.
Yeah,
because they are like they're moves that they're matches that could hold up to the next like 40 years later, to the extent, I mean, like any 4-star match that 4+ match that Dave Meltzer rates nowadays, because he gives 4-star matches to anything. But this is an aside, I love like Dave Meltzer like saw, I guess, like, who was it, EP versus
it was
Shingo, like
it was Desperado and I don't remember who's wrestling. It was Desperado, because I thought El Desperado breaking his brain was like hilarious, being the one to do it.
I don't think it was Desperado. I think it was like Shingo Takagi versus ELP in the G1.
I think it was Desperado.
But
that made him...
I don't think it was Desperado, but it was definitely ELP versus somebody, and he like
would it have been Takeshita?
Yeah, it was Takeshita.
No.
I think it was
Oh,
Takeshita.
Takeshita?
I think it was Takeshita and El Desperado.
Well,
He recently
regardless,
rated-
I'm sorry.
He rated a G1 match, like 5 stars, and he literally had a whole discussion. It's like, oh, watching this, like I stand like I overrate WWE matches. This was completely on different level than anything they're doing. And then it's like, oh, but here's my ratings for Slam. I give Cody versus Solo Sakai like 4.5 stars, and it's like, come on, come the fuck on, Dave.
Yeah.
Like, and then what bothered me about that was like, it's like, well, why are you like? Because people even like WWE like Fed fans like this match sucks. Like on social media, they're like, this match sucks. Like Solo Sakai like sucks. Like Cody like can't pull anything out of this guy. And Dave Meltzer rated like 4.5 stars and basically says like, oh, but the vibes, the aura of the match was good. And it's like, oh my God.
I don't
like
need someone...
that's like that's like a hardcore WWE fan says that shit about a match that really is like a 3-star match, but you're gonna give it 5 because it's like, oh my God, Roman Reigns came out, best match ever.
I don't
Jesus.
get the Solo thing. Like, I've tried. I don't know how you main evented a Big 4 with Solo Sakai. Like, I don't get it. Like, he's an okay worker in the ring, but he has no charisma. Like, he has no... Like, you know what would have been better to me? The match would have been worse, but at least he has presence. Like, doing Kota versus Tama Tonga would have been, like, a far better match. Because at least Tama Tonga, like, has charisma and a personality and, like you kind of care about Tama Tonga.
Tama Tonga is like, the term is probably like overused now, but he's pretty much washed. Like he's in his early 40s, I think, and it's like he's probably like 5 years after his like.
So I would say
but
he's justified his signing with WWE though. Like I think he's proven that he's
been,
worthwhile.
Yeah, he's been, I guess, kind of effectively like a value added for WWE, but Solo Sakai is not good. He doesn't have any like charisma or aura to him. He's probably a better worker than like the Usos, because the Usos are really not good workers.
Yeah, but
he doesn't have as much like charisma as like Jey Uso, and I say that begrudgingly because I think that Jey Uso is like incredibly overhyped.
I feel like
Jey
Solo
has found something that connects with the crowd, and he's riding that pony.
And
you know what?
Then
go for it. It works. It works in that company.
Yeah.
Then go for it.
I just, whenever I watch Solo, I'm like, I'm watching like Dollar Tree Umaga.
Yeah, kind of.
Hang on. Guys, I want you to know something. I've been working really hard on this. I have a Solo Sikoa impression ready. Okay? Prepared for this?
Yes. So my only problem is your hair is not blonde, Shad.
Hmm.
All right. There we go. That took a lot. That took a lot out of me, guys.
Solo Sakai's biggest problem is that they subsequently hired Jacob Fatu, who's like
who's
like the most perfect version of what they want Solo Sakai to
what
be.
They've been trying to convince them that Solo is like, and then they had to hide Jacob Fatu because they're like, oh shit, like we shouldn't have done that.
I mean, Jacob Fatu, like I'm not enamored with the guy, but at the same time, it's like he's better than every single one of the Bloodline people.
Yeah,
I include Roman Reigns in that.
He's got charisma. He's a really good worker, like really flexible.
He's a better worker than Roman Reigns. The only thing is, like, I haven't heard him give promos, so I can't necessarily say he's better at promos than Roman Reigns. Even though Roman Reigns, again, the criticism of him doing basically like community theater acting is.
It's not like
Roman. The only club in Roman's bag is to do things incredibly slowly.
It's not even like Solo can talk.
Well, that adds
who cares?
Drama and gravitas. It's cinema. It's.
At least Roman. I'll defend Roman a little bit. At least he has like charisma.
He's got some aura to him, but I saw this. I don't remember, heard, whatever, but it killed me that here recently. Not anymore, because people on the internet said mean things about it, but 2 of the biggest stories in the WWE revolved around string-based jewelry.
Oh, man.
Between a bracelet and the lei. And I'm like, I mean,
They literally, I guess, as an aside, like I guess on Raw yesterday, like Punk cut a promo, and I guess the promo because he apparently he's a guy who is obsessed with Twitter and like will watch like perusing over everything. So people were shitting on, and justifiably so, the SummerSlam match and how dumb the whole bracelet thing was. And so I guess he in his promo, he's like, "Oh, I don't care about this bracelet. Like Drew can have it." And it's like, you clearly are doing that because you were like, it's the absolute Punk's existence. I feel these days is kind of very much the epitome of the drill tweet from back in the day, the viral drill tweet. It's like, I'm not mad. Please don't put in the newspaper that I got mad. And it's like, clearly you are the most gotten to person I've ever seen.
Well, I don't-
Like every other promo you give, it's like you make some sort of veiled AEW reference that no one gets except the people like on Twitter, because the WWE audience has no idea what you're talking about because they never do watch AEW.
They don't know. They don't care. They have their show that they want to watch. And you know what?
You've been gone from AEW almost like a year.
Yeah.
But why? I don't get that with people like him. Like, you're a freaking millionaire working for a giant wrestling company. You're on TV every week. Why are you doom scrolling Twitter and getting upset about what some like schlub?
Because he is the thinnest of skins.
Like, I've had it happen with like athletes and stuff. Like, and I'm sure it's happened to you guys. Like, people that vanity search and will just block you for like saying something about them that you didn't at them. It's like, because like my problem with that is like, you're being a bitch. Like, if I added you and said that, like, and you blocked me, like, okay, like that is perfectly fine because I'm a jerk for. But if I'm just talking to my friend or something like, oh yeah, they suck, or like that play sucked or that match sucked, and you search your name out and find that and block me for it, it's like it's kind of your own fault for looking for it because I did not. Look, that was not made for your consumption. That was just
the correct attitude. Really, if you're like a celebrity or even a quasi celebrity, like in wrestling, because it's like, unless you're a very top person, like you don't culturally crossover. And I feel like Cena was probably the last guy to cross over. Like Roman Reigns, I don't think even really has like any cachet with like pop culture, larger culture in general. But like, and Cena only because like he's been in actually like movies and stuff. Like he's not even as big as like,
his meme stuff took off. Yeah, Cena's meme stuff took off.
I think Randy Orton got some heat for the RKO meme too.
Maybe a little bit, but my point is like if you're like a celebrity, especially a millionaire, was a millionaire like Punk, like the correct attitude should really be like Eddie Kingston, where it's like, I'm deleting my social media, it's bullshit, and not deal with it. I mean, Eddie did it because he effectively says it's like, yeah, people were mean to Riho, like that's the most insane shit I've ever heard. Like,
yeah, I don't need to be a part of this anymore.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, especially if I was a millionaire, it's like, oh my god, some guy's being mean to me on Twitter. I'd be like, I don't care. And then I would go dive into my big silo of money like Scrooge McDuck. I'd be like, I don't care. Like, you can talk about me all you want to. I don't care.
What I just don't understand about it. I mean, I understand like the.
You seen the meme? You seen the meme of a guy like mopping his tears with like $100 bills? Like,
oh yeah, that was Woody Allen in Zombieland with the $100 bills.
Woody Harrelson. Yeah, it's like
Harrelson. White God.
Woody Allen. That was very different.
Yeah.
What I don't get about it though, in that stuff, it's like I get the Rio thing because it's overwhelming, but like these like people like him that are obsessing about is like anytime anyone like show related to any show I've ever done, if they come at me on Twitter like non-constructively, just coming at me aggressively, I just block it. I don't even respond to them. I just block them. Like if you want to give constructive criticism, I'll hit up. If you're like, hey, you guys suck, it's like block. You're done. If they write something shitty like on the comments here that's not constructive, just delete it. Don't think about it again. Like I'm doing this for my own fun. Like I'm not going to engage with your stupidity. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry,
There's-
like I'm gonna forget about it 5 minutes later. I'm just gonna block it. So you just wasted your
Yeah.
time for me to hit one button and be like, bye bye.
Yeah, if you are at a high level, it feels to me like what you really need is if you're going to have a social media for people you're actually friends with and keep that quiet, that's one thing. But then anything that's going to be like wide scale public following, you need to hand that off to somebody else
Yeah,
to
because
handle.
you're CM Punk. Why are you letting like Bob, the stock boy, get to you?
Why would you let some jerk like me influence what you do, right?
Yes, seriously.
It's and it is also horrifically undermining to be like, well, I don't care about this now. It's like you gave so much of a damn about it the night before you lost the match over it, and now you're just like, I don't care about it. It's like, dude, you are just Matt
You
used a
should.
great phrase. You are the most gotten to person in the world. When the answer to that should be, hey, look, how did it? You say to someone, hey, how'd this go over online? And like, dude, people ain't digging the friendship bracelet thing. It's like,
Yeah.
maybe we just not talk
But
about
it's
it
like,
anymore.
oh, I don't care about this anymore. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
you
you literally have like you kind of like made the whole ending for SummerSlam like where this was important like worthless now.
and
So it's like,
Yeah.
you shit
Yeah.
on
but
you
at the
shit
same
on the
time,
people.
I'm gonna have they're
you
doing a leather strap. So it's like this doesn't bother me, but I'm gonna totally have like this big gimmick match.
Well, and the
with
problem
you
with what he
about it.
did
It's
though
like,
is you essentially shit on people that were giving you money for people online that are probably just watching it for free and like you're not getting much out of. Like that's the problem I have with it too. Is like because here's the one thing I'm going to give this free advice to every corporation and people like CM Punk. Do not listen to social media. They are not your paying customers. The things they will tell you are almost always completely counter to what your paying customers will want, and you're going to lose money. Do not listen to Twitter, especially.
I would say don't listen to social media unless there is a big trend on it, like a big deal.
Only
because then that's a bunch of people getting in on it, and that's a problem.
Only listen if you know it is your fan base. Like if you know for a fact, like you're like an artist, you know those are your fans talking to you, then listen. But like anything, like especially like comic book or video game, don't listen to social media. Those people aren't going to buy your product.
Yeah.
Like if you're making Dark Souls and you have a bunch of people like you need an easy mode, you can just brush them off and say like, no, you're idiots.
That's not who our target demo is.
Yeah.
Look, here I'll put it this way. The best advice for CM Punk is to not listen to people like us because, for example, there's not a whole lot that he could ever do that I would like or give him credit for. Like that bridge is burned as far as I'm concerned. So you shouldn't listen to people like me online. That shouldn't be the case. Something that takes off and trends like 10,000 mentions in the last hour, okay, that's a big deal. I don't know. I'm pulling a number out of the air for what would be appropriate, but that's different. But if you go to the social media guy and say, "Hey man, how's this going over?" and he's like, "Dude, people aren't digging the bracelet angle," then all you got to do is just not talk about it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing going along with that though is like, if you're CM Punk, like you shouldn't listen to me because like what you're doing is never going to resonate with me because you're doing WWE stuff, and like I've repeatedly gone on the record saying like I don't enjoy it. So like if I'm shitting on it and you're listening to me, it's like you're not listening to your audience. Like you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, the way that I look at some of the stuff in WWE is it's stuff that works for the fan base that company has.
Yeah.
You know what? Fine. I don't particularly like the Usos. I don't particularly like Jay's Yeet thing or anything like that. But you know what? It's working for him. Fine. Go do it. It's working for the company that you're in.
That's my point though, is don't like why he shouldn't listen to us though is because we're not the audience.
Yeah. So I'm trying to present my opinion as being Fair.
Well, I mean, but like we want to BS and make fun of it, like.
Yeah,
but,
we'll still make fun of it.
Yeah,
but I
like,
just recognize that.
But just realize like we're static and I mean, yeah, I'll just say we're haters. So just don't listen to us. But like that's the problem though, is I bet stuff if he heard stuff like us, he would seethe about that more than like constructive criticism that he would.
Oh,
just ignore.
we would catch so many ats or subtweets.
Yeah,
it'd be unreal.
So now I will say I did pop in the first rollerball match because Dynamite whipped out the tombstone.
I wrote that on my notes. Like he did the tombstone in 1981. He did a tombstone pile driver, and then climbed the top rope and did a diving headbutt, and that wasn't like a fall. Yeah. And I was like, that should have absolutely been a fall. Like
that surprised me a lot.
A tombstone plus a diving headbutt from the top rope, like that should have absolutely been a fall. Yeah. Like if a dude did that here in 2024, if a guy did a tombstone and then a diving headbutt, that would totally be like a 3 count, and no one would be like, "Oh, that should have been a 3."
Well, you have to realize though, so tombstone pile drivers, especially when it comes to junior matches, because it is like before Taker was doing it, and even like to this, even through the 90s, like the tombstone is like a junior version of the tombstone, and it's not like a finisher in like the context of juniors.
I swear, I thought that in the junior setting, I guess, because I thought Gorilla Monsoon's finish was the tombstone.
Oh, I have to look. I haven't seen
it. I thought that Gorilla Monsoon used a tombstone pile driver as his finish, but you're talking about the general attitude. It was the zeitgeist around that at the time.
Yeah, so like, Ultimo Dragon did one. Who else did them? Because juniors like to do the reversal and all that, but and they did it a lot differently. Like, but yeah, it's a junior move. It's really not like a finisher. So I can see your problem with it, but like in context of like junior matches, it's really not a finish move.
So one of the things that I got out of from this match forward, is now because my exposure to Dynamite Kid in any sustained form has been minimal. And some people are going to be looking at, how are you going to call yourselves what? It just has been. I completely understand now why there are so many people that looked up to him as a role model and a trendsetter, because this match specifically, and this and all the ones following, were ones that, minus like the formal warnings and the round breaks and stuff, you could have seen these on TV now, and they would have been fine, because he was really ahead of his time and setting the trend, I guess. Because what was this one? 85?
81.
81.
This was 81. This was 2 years before. Wait, no, because I looked it up. Starrcade 1 was 85. And Starrcade 1, watch.
Starrcade 1 was 83 or 84.
Okay, this was years prior to Starrcade 1, and here I am, and I remember when we watched it, I was kind of grumbling about the match pacing and that sort of stuff then, but then you turn and look at Dynamite Kid, who's doing this stuff before that took place, and it's like, okay, I completely understand why people sought him out and looked up to him and wanted to imitate what he did. It makes perfect sense.
My big takeaway from watching Dynamite in these matches and just like really focusing in on his moves and how he bumped and stuff, I was like, damn, I see why this guy ended up in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Like, yeah. I don't even mean that bad. Like the way he did some bumps and stuff, like, I'm like, oh man, like this is why he ended up in a wheelchair, because he had no regard for his body.
No, the moves he did, some of the bumps he took, they're incredibly dramatic and incredibly, like, there was an explosiveness to it, and it's actually, again, like, appreciating it in the abstract 40 plus years later, it's fantastic, it's amazing.
But there's stuff where he's like literally bumping with his legs full up in the air with it all going on his shoulders and neck and stuff, and I was just like, holy crap, dude. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, that was my big takeaway. And he did the headbutt a lot. There were a couple other things he did where I was just like, damn, dude, like if modern medicine had like been around, maybe you would have like known not to do that. But some of the stuff he did made me uncomfortable, like the way he landed on his head and stuff.
Well, and it gets worse. That in the subsequent matches, because you can see how his frame builds out over this
Oh, you can see the
timeline.
roiding.
Yeah,
One,
he's still doing that stuff later, and that means that whenever he's bulkier, it's taking an even
Yeah.
bigger toll.
but remember when we watched? I think they were on Survivor Series '88, weren't they, Matt? They're in that big tag, weren't they?
Yes.
So remember we watched '85 we watched 2 matches, but by '88 Survivor Series he is totally washed. Like he's done. His body's just destroyed.
He suffered a really bad back injury in like
Mhm.
87, 88, and he kind of never recovered. Like
And
he did recover
he
somewhat, where he did actually do some matches.
no, he
in,
wrestled
like, 90s.
regularly till '94, but like he never recovered as a worker.
No, he did do some All Japan stuff in like the early 90s. I haven't
Yeah.
really seen a lot of it, but I think his last match or one of his last matches was like 95 or so.
I looked at
When
his
he-
matches because I was really morbidly
saw this.
curious.
There was his last match, I believe, was like a 95 like Michinoku Pro match, and I saw this. I remember I even think I had this on like VHS back in the day, like the days of tape trading, and he looks completely different than he does in obviously like here or in like the late 80s WWF. Like he is, man, how to describe it? Like he, even calling him like a junior heavyweight doesn't do it. He looks like I don't have like a big bodybuilder physique or anything like that. I'm like a medium-sized guy, but it's like he probably looks like me or like smaller than me, and I'm like 6 foot
It's a
170, 180, something like that. I'm like medium sized, but I'm like an average guy. Like he's in there with guys who are probably only like 170, 180 pounds, but have actually muscle definition. Like he's like almost skin and bones.
it's a shame because like when you look at the '81 stuff, like he's fine. Like his body type is 100% fine. He did not need to do all of that extra stuff. Like I'd even say like '81, he's a little. He could have toned it down even a little from there, but it's like, man, when you get to '85, like it's just he's roided to the gills. And
I included two 85 tag matches from All Japan, and you could see he was clearly he was well by then. 4 years later, he's pretty well.
I would even say in '85, like he's deteriorated as a worker because those Bulldog matches, I was like, man, like Davey Boy's kind of better in this era.
From the tag matches we saw, I don't know that I would agree with that, but Davey Boy was still like, well, this is like, it's probably before even Davey's peak. And that's included like Davey's peak didn't even come until later in the 90s when he himself had horrible drug issues. But
yeah,
I don't think he was better than Dynamite, but it's like you could see like he was
just doing like the big stuff. He wasn't doing like he was
Dynamite by 85, like it's almost like that was starting the downwards spiral. By 88, you're right. When he suffered his back injury, it's like that was
because it's just like well, what am I gonna do here? Well, I'll just go to the top and do the headbutt now. And it's like you didn't need to do that right there, but it's just like, but like I don't know, since Shad watched this, but it has less context. Do you feel like he had deteriorated between like the '81 and the '85 stuff? Is like a worker.
He had definitely slowed down. And I did not know if that was attributed to damage
size,
or if it attributed to the fact that he was bigger now, so he could not move as quickly.
Yeah, I think you could make the argument that you could make the argument that it was due to the size. Like you might, I can easily see that, and it would actually be logical, and maybe actually have been the truth. Like, he was clearly bigger. I mean,
Yeah.
he put on appreciably more muscle mass, and he was not a guy. It's like it's not as if like Dynamite was like a 6'5" dude. It's like I'd have to look to see how tall he was, but if he was probably like max like 5'10", maybe, like it wouldn't surprise me. Like, so if you're like, let's say you're a smaller guy, or even like I guess 5'10", probably the average guy, but let's say you're like 5'10", and normally like you're in shape walking around like 180, and all of a sudden you're like 220,
Apparently he was
like 40
5'9", so you're really on the button.
Okay. So let's say he normally was like 180, 190, and all of a sudden he's like 220 because he's roided up. Like
Yeah.
30 to 40 extra pounds. It's like, yeah, that would affect you. Like,
That's
look,
in
people whose like weight fluctuates, it's like if I were 10 pounds heavier, for whatever reason, like you can actually 10 pounds, you could actually feel that. Like if I like put on 10 pounds and then I go for a run, it's like I'm running differently than if I'm 10 pounds lighter. 10 pounds, like that's not even like statistically that much versus like the amount of muscle mass he clearly had put on. He had to have put on like a lot.
and he was less
And I mean, like,
flexible.
yeah,
I
but
yeah.
it could have also been damaged. I mean, I don't know.
There was and I don't have the book handy, but it was in Foley's first book. He said he outright describes Dynamite Kid as somebody who packed on, and I don't remember the exact, but he said something like 240 pounds, muscled pounds onto a frame that was probably never meant to hold more than 180. And so, like, okay, weird parallel, but Alan Rickson, the guy that plays Jack Reacher in the Amazon series, for him to be like Jack Reacher size, he has even said, I don't enjoy it because of how hard it is on my body to do that. It is hard on his body to be that big.
I haven't seen any of that show. I've seen, I guess, trailers for it or clips of it, and he looks like a giant dude. I don't know. I have
He's
no idea.
6'5".
Okay, so he actually is a tall guy, but I mean,
Yeah.
he looks like pro wrestler size big.
Yeah.
This is a weird analogy because my wife's a fan of his, but Zac Efron, she's a fan of Zac Efron. Zac Efron, I guess, a wrestling connotation. Like Zac Efron actually, you know, he obviously portrayed Kevin Von Erich in the Iron Claw movie, but Zac Efron has it's starting back a few years back, like when he did the Baywatch movie. Like Zac Efron has actually been in like ridiculous shape, like, and obviously has done. Look, people in Hollywood who do that, I think, probably do like effectively performance enhancing drugs. But
Oh, they do.
so if there were steroids involved, I wouldn't be surprised. But I mean, he has been like in ridiculous shape before, where he has like washboard abs. And he had like a show, I think, on Netflix or something that my wife watched, whatever. And there's some clip, and I feel it almost went viral. But I mean, there's a clip where he's like eating. I feel like he's like eating with people, and he's eating like a piece of bread or something like that, and he's almost like crying. And he's like you don't understand. Like, this is the first time I'm eating carbs in like 3 years or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm misquoting for dramatic effect, but
Right.
he had like to have like this intense diet to have that. And I actually have a friend, like in real life, personal friend, who is like probably my age, give or take, and is like in a good shape dude. And like in his youth, like probably a decade or so ago, he's like, oh yeah, I used to have washboard abs. And so he said this to like a buddy of mine, and we're like, oh, like we're like, washboard abs, like what do you have to do to that? And he's like, oh, it sucked. Like, it's terrible. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, you had to like work out all the time, and you have to have an incredibly strict diet to do that. He's like, yeah, like I'm in good shape, but it's like I don't have washboard abs. I'm okay with that because it was too much. I feel like there's a genetic component. It's like,
Yeah, there is.
I could work out 6 hours a day and I'd be in like a decent amount of shape. Would I have washboard abs? Like, probably not, unless I'm like have a really strict diet and I'm doing like 2 hours of that 6 hours of ab work. But it's also it's like is that worth it?
You know how you know it's genetics is
Yeah.
They asked Sean Waltman at one point if he took steroids. He's like, yeah, I tried them for a couple of months. They didn't do a damn thing for me. Like, I didn't gain 1 ounce of muscle.
Yeah, there was a guy I used to wrestle with. The guy is just, I mean, he would take his shirt off. He was just utterly cut. But his metabolism was so damn high. And he also he just didn't overeat. You know, he just didn't eat a whole lot, but his metabolism was so high. He was just cut naturally that way. And he was like, oh, which shirt should I wear? And everybody in the locker room turned and looked at him and went, because it's like, dude, of everybody here, why in the hell are you wanting to wear a shirt?
Did you ever watch Asuka's YouTube channel when she used to do videos?
I remember you telling me about how much she ate.
Oh man, like she'd be like, okay, I'm gonna cook something today, and she would eat while she was cooking. And I'm just like, god damn, like I would be like 400 pounds if I hung out with you, because that's all she did on YouTube was just eat.
I remember a short where she had a chopped brisket sandwich from Buc-ee's, but I can't remember. I never got far enough to see. Yeah,
Buc-ee's reference.
I never saw the rest of it to see what she thought of it after she ate it. I remember it was Choppadoo brisket sandwich, and I'm like, okay, that's a translation thing. Get over it.
You know what though? Gen X are weird just because at the same time, like one of the matches we watched was a Harley Race match, and it's like Harley Race is a dude like that dude could have worked out 8 hours a day and still looked like a big fat truck driver body. But that's a dude that it's like, if you probably put him in the ring with 100 dudes, like he could probably like outwork 100 of them. And I don't mean like route wrestle. I mean like the guy probably had more like cardiovascular conditioning and stamina than like 100 other dudes.
I would,
even though that dude smoked and drank.
I was just about to make the joke. I could just see being at the gym and Harley Race is there, benching like 450 pounds with a cigarette in his mouth.
Yeah. He's puffing on the stogie while he's doing bench presses.
I always joke about that.
With Harley. People are like, God damn it, Harley. But you're like, I wasn't so damn tough. And like take a drag of a Marlboro Red or Pall Mall, unfiltered Pall Mall.
He's there pressing. He goes, I had to switch to cigarettes because the ash kept falling out of the pipe into my eyes.
Yeah. I just laugh. That's always my joke about Harley racing these tags is like, you know, Harley's just sitting there puffing away and like he gets tagged and he's like, let me put this out. He's like, okay, I'm ready.
There's an ashtray on top of the ring post. Now, I will admit the match with Harley, I was kind of like, because his in-ring vocalization to me sounded like he kept trying to hawk up a loogie, and I'm just like, because he's going to do something, he's like, yeah, and I'm like, Harley, could you please, never mind.
Yeah. If you're watching this, you don't know who Jesse Barr is. It's Jimmy Jack Funk, is what he's
from mid to late, like that mid WWF.
No, yeah, wasn't he still doing that when we watched like the AWF or something? He was still doing the Jimmy Jack Funk thing.
Well, he could have been.
I feel like he did that forever.
For the show, we watched two British Bulldog tag matches from late '85 in All Japan. Dynamite and Davey Boy versus Mighty Inoue and Tiger Mask 2, who was Misawa.
You popped me for picking a Mighty Inoue match, by the way. I'm damn, I haven't seen Mighty Inoue in a long time.
That's a deep cut, right?
Oh, and he also didn't disappoint either, man. Like, I was like, oh, Shad's gonna dig this guy when he sees him doing his thing.
He's fun. And then it was Dynamite, Davey Boy versus Harley Race and Jesse Barr, aka Jimmy Jack Funk. These November '85 and December '85, so it was like late '85.
Man, Misawa did Misawa did some crazy ass bump, and I wrote it down and I don't remember, like I can visualize it, but I don't know how to like verbalize what he did. It was like a bump to the outside.
But I know you're talking about that match, but I actually wrote down in my notes, just to go back a second, like the first Dynamite Rollerball Rocco match, like the slingshot suplex spot that Rollerball.
Oh yeah, that was
Dynamite was like effing vicious. He like takes him and he throws Dynamite onto the ropes, and Dynamite hits it like mid, like in his gut, and it just looked, it looked painful.
Yeah,
Looked like I'm gonna like F you up.
I was gonna say, I
Like,
don't think you can
fuck
call that
you.
a slingshot suplex. He just kind of suplexed him right onto the ropes.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
no,
brutal.
he hung him up. I wouldn't say he did any slingshotting.
Oh, that suplex looks so great though. I was like, oh damn, that looks like it hurt. Because there was a couple
yeah.
things he did, like the elbow drop Rocco did, but there was some like holds and stuff he was doing. I was like, man, that looks nasty.
The the Bulldogs matches kind of kept a lot of that that pace together thing that we had mentioned earlier. Like, they didn't slow down for it. It reminded me of the Road Warriors. Like, they kept stuff together. They kept it going. They kept doing things. They didn't stop in between. And so the momentum kept rolling, and that was, that's me going, okay, this is where that new, more modern style is coming in. And, it's interesting. It was interesting to see the difference from the 78 match to the 81 match, because that was something that Dynamite and Rollerball both did on that, is they would do something and then they were just right on top of they were staying with the other guy to press it. I was looking at it going, that's what that first match was missing.
It was interesting that we got to see kind of him green, him at his peak, and then him kind of on the start of the decline.
The hard part of that is the fact that it is under 10 years for the arc that we saw.
I just think he was too hard on his body, and he roided too much.
Oh, 100%. Like, mine was 10 years too, but I came in with wear and tear already, so I don't have an excuse.
I mean, he's a noted piece of shit, but I mean, it kind of made me sad, like, when we get to 85, because I was like, man, you didn't have to do that to yourself. Like, you looked fine in 81. Like, you had definition, you were small. Like, I know WWE is probably offering you big bucks, but like, I think you would have been fine, like, looking like you did in 81.
He just kept,
because he's bloated. I mean, I'm just gonna say he looked bloated in 85. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, he was almost as big. Like, he wasn't as big as Davey, but he was almost as big, and he has nowhere near like the height or frame that Davey does.
Yeah.
So I think we could go deeper into Dynamite. I think we're gonna do the Tiger Mask thing, I think, soon, since we kind of broke the barrier on that.
Yeah.
But it's getting kind of late, and I think some of us are starting to drag a bit, me included.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna. Oh, go ahead.
Just
Matt.
real quick. I'm sorry to bring it longer, but I did include for if either you watched it, but I did include in our matches Dax versus Tom Billington, who is Dynamite Kid's shoot nephew.
yeah.
From May 11th of this year, a collision match. And this is kind of what started the ball. Like, eventually Tom Billington apparently has been signed by AEW. I actually thought it was really good. Like, match was actually really good.
It's a testament to how strong Dax is as a worker, I think. I mean,
Yeah,
Tom's really good, but man, I was just like my take. I know I was supposed to watch it for Tom, but I was just watching that match like, God damn, Dax is so good.
Oh, I actually included it in my notes that you have to watch a lot of wrestling like we have, but if you watch it, like, I included it because it's like, obviously, like, sequentially, it's like you have Dynamite Kid, a kid who's his real life nephew, but it also is kind of aping a lot of his style and trying to do moves like similar to that and kind of in the same context of that. But Dax, if you watch a lot of wrestling, you can appreciate the finer things in a wrestling match, and you can see like this match was almost a perfect rendition of the old school experienced vet Dax in working a match with a younger, more inexperienced guy and doing everything that the vet is supposed to do, in that he was kind of leading the kid on when he needed to be. He was reining the kid in when he needed to be. He was selling for the kid when he absolutely needed to be to make the kid look good. He was telling a story in the match where it's like, I'm the experienced vet going up against the inexperienced guy, but I'm not able to put him away easily like I should be doing. So I'm getting constantly frustrated. So I have to get even more like aggressive and vicious in the match. And the kid keeps giving it back. It was actual like beautiful storytelling. It's actually a really good match. And the subtleties that you can pull out, if you watch a lot of wrestling, you can see what Dax is doing as an experienced worker. It's actually fascinating.
Well,
And credit to Tom Billington for like playing into that and actually like going along with the flow. And it actually, I think, made both guys look better because Dax did his part. You can appreciate that. But it really got over the job of making Tom Billington look good. It's like really good in comparison. Actually, and one last thing, I actually thought that the commentary for this was actually great. Like Tony Schiavone and Nigel McGuinness like did a great job because they actually did a really good job of putting over Tom Billington, but emphasizing it's like, oh, he's green, like he's trying to emulate Dynamite, but it's like, is he going to be that way? Like, I don't know, but also kind of showing admiration for his showing and his skill, but also emphasizing how good Dax is.
I think it helps too that Dax being like having such knowledge of wrestling, like he understood Dynamite Kid's style enough that he worked that match so you could get that Dynamite Kid feel from Tom. Like he understood how to get him down, like what kind of moves to give him. Like that's really the genius of like how Dax worked that match. Is he did it in such a way that's like, okay, well, we're gonna do this because that's gonna bring out that like Dynamite Kid thing you're going for. Like that's really where I thought, and I wanted to add, like, thank God they fired Kevin Kelly. Like Collision is so much, because I mean, I'm sorry, I know there's people that always like try to say improve, but like Kevin Kelly has always been a net detriment to anything he announces. Like always is a net detriment.
I'm not really a fan of his. So,
and apparently he's a jackass according to Ian, and I tend to think Ian's a cool dude.
Oh, well, so he's gonna sue AEW for firing him.
Yes, I mean, I'm sure that'll go well. But yeah, it was a really good match. Like Dax is, because I mean, I'll still say I think the best CM Punk match since he came back was that match he had with Dax on Dynamite, because that one was really good.
You guys have said everything I was going to say about that match. You have left me with literally nothing to add. It's great. Like, they play their roles. Dax does a great job leading.
Yeah, Dax is really good. Like I always know he's good, but man, when he pulls one of these out, like especially in a singles match, you're just like, oh yeah, like you literally rule, like as a worker. Because usually when you get those tag guys in singles matches, sometimes they kind of struggle a bit because they don't necessarily have like a lot of content for a singles match, and Dax just really excels at it, and it's just like, oh yeah, you like. I knew it was gonna be good, but then man, I was just like, man, Dax, like you're awesome.
Yeah, it was really good.
But that is it for this week. We'll probably, I don't know what we'll do next week. We've been doing a lot of footage lately, so we might do something a little lighter, just because we all have lives and it's hard to get stuff in sometimes.
Yeah,
but,
this is gonna be a crazy weekend.
Yeah.
Not even counting without even counting All In as part of it. So
I think what we'll do is when we do footage again, I think we're going to do Dynamite and Tiger Mask, and then so my idea is we can rabbit hole this, and we can do Dynamite and Tiger Mask, and then do a Tiger Mask episode, and then come back around to do Rollerball as his own like thing, and then maybe, because honestly, like we wanted to do like a long thing on WCW cruiserweights, and I think Matt started us on like the perfect path, because we get to start with these like kind of innovators of the style.
Mm-hmm.
So that is it for this week. Thank you everyone for joining us as always. Always great to see people pop in the chat and say hey. So this has been the 4 Corners podcast with Craig Bott, and we will see you next